Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and thanks for stopping by. Our dedicated team will guide you through with the latest updates and theories at Starbase, Texas. To the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon for future streams.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff.
Okay, good everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're listening to from around the world. Welcome to Starbase Weekly, episode 201 from RGV Aerial Photography. Some really nice weather this week. It's some really nice photographs, as you can see. It's a really nice picture of the nice panorama. So today we've got Ryan Hansen. G'day, Ryan.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, it's been a little bit, a lot of cool stuff to talk about all over Starbase, so I'm excited to share these photos with everyone and have our discussions.
And we've got Ryan Weber as well. G'day, Ryan.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
And my favourite co-commentator, we've got Alex with us. G'day, Alex.
Hello, Steph, Ryan, Orion, and Matt, and Indy. Off for a good show, perhaps.
Cool. And we've got Indy's going to do questions and donations for us again today. So g'day, Indy. Welcome back to the stream. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everybody.
See 5x5s in chat. That's awesome. Now, is my screen working properly? I thought, yeah, it looks all right. Cool. Okay, let's go and start over at Massey's, shall we? So, of course, I guess the big thing at Massey's is 39. I was going to say 36 then. 39 is back out on the, or it was back on the static fire stand out at Massey's, which we obviously didn't get a static fire because, you know, they're scaffolding in a trench still. And so, I don't know, we did some kind of test. We saw it filling and then detanking. So possibly an ignition test, maybe a spin prime, I guess, were the two main candidates for what happened to 39. I don't think there's lots to talk about we see the tiles here. I think we might have covered the tiles before. These odd tiles, they're some kind of aid for the cameras. I hear people saying infrared cameras or using infrared sensors to line the camera up to these tiles. I'm not sure exactly what sort of sensors they're going to use to look at them, but a bit like previous rocket designs where they use colours to help the cameras sort of coordinate to see the vehicle and its orientation and what have you.
There's also a couple different, I guess, levels of white. You've got, yeah, right there by your cursor, there's a brighter white tile, a couple of them, and then there's some tiles are a little bit more gray. So I'm guessing there's a little bit of, expected identification that they're going to try and compare against to see, what their parameters are able to find out for, what identifies as a missing tile versus what might not be a missing tile. So probably a couple of tests they're doing to kind of calibrate the sensors on the cameras.
So should it pick the white tile as a missing tile, should it?
Kind of depends. I think the white is maybe to show maybe the underlying material, like if a tile were to like break or whatever, that they may be able to identify that as a broken tile. Not really sure if like they're specifically trying to like lock on to a certain tile or just kind of read the heat shield for any like anomalies that might show up, which the gray would be a little bit harder to detect versus the white would be a lot more obvious.
Cool. So were you going to say something, Alex?
I was just saying the joy was computer vision teaching it, because I mean under the tile, what Ryan's alluding to. I mean you have the crunch wrap, or you have the black ablative. So there's a couple of different surface conditions to actually detect what the state of a tile is.
And that would be to eventually automate the process, yeah?
Well, if they want to know how the tiles, once they make it on orbit, and then you can start correlating with, okay, all these tiles were at this state when we went to our reentry interface, and then when it gets back, how everything fared, as well as knowing from ahead of time which ones were damaged and which ones were missing. And then you can start cataloging the risk layer level with tiles being missing from various locations along the vehicles.
This does feel a little bit like a method of kind of accelerating their test findings. It seems like if they want to try and catch the ships as soon as possible, they need to collect data on what that looks like. So on ascent, they may lose some tiles, and they want to know what they've lost, and then factor that into maybe some of their risk calculations for bringing the ship back overland.
Okay, and they've got a fair amount of data already now with actually missing tiles, don't they? Because of all the tests they've just, on the last few flights, they've had tiles missing all over the place deliberately.
Yeah.
Right.
Which on this one, there's tiles all over the bottom flaps, and the idea with that is that they're able to see it with the onboard cameras a lot easier than if it would be on the windward side. So they're doing a lot of kind of adhesion testing on this ship and comparing, expected to not expected tile loss. So there's a lot of testing going on that it's a little shifted compared to what we've seen before with tiles missing on the windward side, but they're still doing a lot of tile tests on this flight.
Which, speaking of tile tests, they've started doing tile adhesive tests on their test tanks they have on the site too.
We'll come over to that in a second for sure, yep. So we see a new camera down here. It's on both sides. Bit of a cool spot for him. I'm guessing it's a camera. It seems to have a wire going to it and everything. And there's another one over on the other side as well. I would see these marks. We didn't actually mention them, but we saw them last week as well. Well, I didn't see them, but they were noticed last week. I think it says fall protection beyond this point is required. I think if the platform's not in place, I think it says also something to those lines. It's a bit of a trip hazard going down in there. I did take a close look. Yeah, their scaffold is only on the top, so I thought it was going all the way down. So there's been a lot of questions asked in chat. That's all about are they putting more lining on the walls? Are they doing something with the walls? But for now, it seems like they're just inspecting the top at least, and on different lengths on both sides. So maybe they'll work their way down, like you mentioned, Alex. But for now, it looks like they're just testing up, looking at this. The what do you call it? The
Grade
top
beam.
beam there, grade beam. Yeah.
So to mention on that, kind of right below your cursor, Stephanie, there's kind of a gray line. It kind of looks like they maybe have been patching the seam between the wall and kind of that cap. Well, no, the horizontal gray line. If you go back up, yeah, right there. So I'm wondering if they're continuing that across, patching up that spot.
Oh, it's
likely,
different there, isn't it?
It's likely, Ryan, because we did see a little bucket full of concrete chippings. And then probably grinding out the damaged concrete.
Maybe one day we'll see the walls get steel lined or or something, but not today.
No. And it also some of the seams between the panels look a little bit wider.
They do, don't they? These ones in particular. Well, they've already filled them, but this one here looks like it's actually open. That one there kind of looks like it's filled, but this one looks like it's open.
Well,
Actually, you can see, look at the bottom of the ramp. There's a bunch of concrete dust down there along the edge. You can see where it's fallen from above.
Yeah.
well,
That might
maybe
be some of this material, yeah.
maybe Ryan, that great day of them putting panels and grouting behind it is going to happen sooner
Let's
rather
say you
than
think
later.
they're grinding off the messed up surface layer, and then they'll go down and set up to put panels on. I think that's what they're doing.
With our luck, they're just smearing in whatchamacallit, the God, now I completely the temperature, the refractory
Fondag.
concrete. Yeah,
Oh.
Fondag.
This feels like they're
just
just patching the bottom of that grade beam because it might be starting to erode away, and they probably don't want that. So just spackling in some fill. That's kind of what this feels like.
yeah. I'm just worried that at one point they'll just do a layer of Fondag and call it good, because we've seen how great that works.
Theoretically, they could put those, the pins in and put steel plates like they did on Pad Scrap's tower, couldn't they? But so far, we don't see any sign of that at all yet.
And going by and doing it piece by piece like this is a great surface inspection as well for how deep the damage and spalling is actually occurring.
Yeah. Yeah, a bit of a tough environment down in there, that's for sure. Just quickly up here, they've removed some of the scaffolding up here off these frames, and we had noticed all actuators had been installed last week. So if anyone hasn't sort of kept up, they're changing the cable system into solid actuators. They'll still obviously need some cables to link between like they do down the bottom. So we didn't see any kind of flap testing on 39. I think it's just how to quickly do some engine checks, and then back in so it's back in Mega Bay 2 now on the left-hand stand, the front stand. So, and the Pez dispenser hasn't been taken up to it, so it's probably having some more work done to it. I've heard on the street they're having a tiny bit of trouble with ship 39, but
A lift went into the bay and is now vertical, working on the top part of 39. So I don't think they're disconnecting the lifter or something, maybe to then hook up the box and load it that way, or they're doing something to 39 and it's a little ways off. So who knows?
Might get some
It's a
more of
safe
that at the
bet.
fields. Oh, go.
Safe bet as always. There's just more tile work to do. Maybe they're painting more tiles or something.
That's the optimistic view, I think. We'll keep our fingers crossed for that one. we did see, I didn't see any vaporizing sort of from this area, but we probably wouldn't see that yet from the last test. We did see some vaporizing from this pond during the last test. Obviously, we saw some chopping going on the methane exhaust, and we saw this box fan blasting away when just before they were doing the loading and everything, or while they were doing the loading and everything for the ship yesterday-ish. Time zones, you see. So that's that end of the whole masses. Now, towards the front, we'll go towards the middle. So first, we'll jump in here. So my bit of crow to eat is these tanks coming in here, not the four that were the port connector road. I kind of had the four at the connector road pin for these, only because there was four sets of foundations. So got that wrong. But for other people like Alex, it was obvious that these are oxygen tanks that were going here. So oxygen tanks, yeah.
That's what the label said.
And we did some measurements, and just all your ACD people, just close your ears for a second. But it looks like this tank here fits exactly on this intermediate footing. So it looks like they might put this tank in, still keeping it nitrogen. It'll have its outlets up this end, you reckon, Alex? So it ties in with this system better?
May or may not keep it as nitrogen, but yeah. They're going to have to rework it. I mean, they already have a nitrogen pressure building for the top 950 tank. So they may, if they're converting any of those to nitrogen, they may transition and switch which pressure building system.
So you're sort of thinking they may switch some of these tanks to nitrogen, aren't you?
Yeah.
Even all of them, actually.
Possibly. Hopefully at least 3 of them.
Yeah. And that should increase, because of the increasing testing cadence, whatever, they're also increasing. They can do better testing, you're saying, on show and tell. I think the quantities, they need more quantities these days.
Yeah.
We had a little discussion on the Tuesday show about these things here. So there, Alex, they're the burst discs system for these tanks. I don't think everyone realised what these actually were. I didn't, that's for sure.
Yeah, they protect those are double wall tanks, so there's a vacuum between, and if the tanks leak, which is known to happen, or air gets in, it'll liquefy and usually freeze. And then when you drain the tanks, it'll start to thaw, and then you'll get a potential for a pressure explosion since they turn into pressure vessels. So that's to protect that annular space between the two tanks.
Yep. So they'll possibly move that. It looks like they're going to move that tank, and then not immediately, but eventually, I guess they'll get rid of these other nitrogen tanks. Maybe not straight away. Okay, down the front of the site. Maybe these tests on this one, can you tell me how many tests they've done on this tank in this position and its overall tests?
5 in that position, 15 overall.
5 already, wow.
Yeah. Let's bring up these photos of, which one has it? This one. We're talking before about tile testing. So some of this ground shots the other week. Let me have a quick look here. This tank. Oh, we see. Sorry, it's this week's. We can see new tiles on that tank. On this other tank, they've taken tiles off. This 18.3. Give me a second here. There was tiles on this tank they've removed. So they finished that testing. I'm not going well with the photos here. And then on this tank here, there's some. We saw this last week. They're starting to add some tiles, and even on that
I don't know whether they're going to put them there or not, but even on that landing tank, there's a spot where they've buffed some of the steel. Just give me a second here to find the photo. There we go. They've even buffed some of the steel on this LOX landing tank. Don't know that it is for tiles, but it's a possibility. So I'll go back to this other tank's got a few more tiles. So here you can see where tiles have been taken up on this test tank as well. So 3 active tanks right now, which is kind of cool for the testing campaign. Yeah, this one here has some more. This is what the tiles look like now. So they're doing some more of their adhesion testing. They've even got small tiles and big tiles. Black tiles, white tiles, tiles with stuff behind the white behind them, tiles without the white behind them.
It is interesting that they're doing a lot of adhesion testing with the tiles, just because they've, recently gone to more pinned tiles, over the years, moving away from the adhesive. And now that we're seeing all of these adhesive tests, it kind of suggests that they're trying to collect data on what happens in different areas due to, thermal or mechanical forces. And it's just it's a little odd. It kind of implies that maybe they're trying to go back in the direction of adhesive tiles, which would be obviously a departure from a lot of the pin stuff that they've done more recently.
I had noticed they've actually got sensors on here. I was just thinking, they answered my question. I was wondering, could they be testing also as the steel contracts and expands, how the gap between the tiles changes, and then I've just noticed they've actually got sensors on here that maybe are actually testing that gap clearance.
And you can tell based on like where they're putting the tiles to, like if they do end up putting tiles on that landing tank, it's not because they're going to actually put tiles on the landing tank, but it's a different surface. It has a different curvature to it. It potentially provides a little bit more information on like a different environment that the adhesive might see.
Well, the very top of the ship has that smaller diameter, doesn't it? Like up here, these are on that diameter.
And as well as the arrow on the flaps.
Yep. Well, especially the rear ones, but yeah, the front ones too. Yeah, of course. Yep. Well, that makes more sense. Yeah, now you think of the different areas of the ship. Yeah, because it didn't make a lot of sense to start with that they would put tiles on that landing tank. Yeah, thanks for that. Answers that question. Thank you.
I mean, adhesion would solves one set of problems as far as placement. Since when you glue them on, everything will have their set gap. And with the pins, they sort of float and move in relation to each other.
Okay, yep, that's what you're saying there. So we haven't actually seen, in all this, it's only adhesions. We haven't actually seen pins yet. So even on like the, where there's stringers here, they're trying the adhesives as well, even with the big tiles and small tiles as well. All sorts of different. I wonder if these patterns mean anything, or they're just, I don't know, just putting that amount of tiles on.
I mean, it looks like how many edges they have in contact with each other. Like some of them, they have only one edge. Some of them are 2 edges, and up from there.
Yeah, that left patch of 3 would only have like the 2 contact sides, and then that one on the right has an extra tile there at the bottom corner. So there's another variable introduced that kind of affects that tile in the middle.
I wonder if that's to do with tiles actually, like with they're losing tile, like they're losing a tile. How does that affect this tile, like with nothing pushing on that side of it?
I think that's probably what they're doing on the flaps of 39. They've got a couple different sections that have tiles that are they have the little ramp on them that slowly transition from like a thinner to a thicker area, and it seems like that wind shear on the flap as it's flying has a potential to peel some of those tiles off. That's actually what we've seen in the past when they've done tiles on the flaps. Is that wind comes in from the side and basically just peels them right off the flap. So there's a couple different areas where they're testing that on the flaps.
Like in negative pressure areas as well is where a lot of it is too on reentry.
That hard edge is a very turbulent environment.
Which I think even on the last flight, they had a piece of ablative that was kind of flapping in the wind. And I think that was on purpose to see if it could actually pry the tile up off the pins and shatter it, which I think it might have.
So around the back of this flap you're talking about?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good.
Which, considering the flap is folded, we knew that this was going to be a quick test. They didn't even bother unfolding it or anything. They rolled it up, kept it like this, and which I think it made it a little more difficult to see when prop load had started. But yeah, they were pretty much indicating it was a quick test.
It did make it a bit tricky, yes, to see the prop load, yes. Here it is, this photo. Let's quickly back onto the header tank. They've started to put some plumbing in already. Actually, they may have the three main commodities in, so I'm thinking higher pressure liquid nitrogen, lower pressure liquid nitrogen, and a gas.
One of them's maybe just a vent line. You wouldn't send high pressure liquid.
A vent line, you say?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't seen if they've around the bottom if they have their little vent to raise or not. Because between the two tanks, the bowl vent with the actuator right up where you were, there was one on the ground that hadn't been set up. Very top left corner. Yeah, it looks like they're still setting up plumbing.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, so we might jump over to questions and donations, Indy.
Sure. First thing we want to do is we want to wish our very own Astro Joe a very happy birthday. Today is his birthday. So if you haven't already, please feel free to wish him in chat. And then we also want to thank Martin for his £2 donation. And he said, let's do this. Brian Aries, thank you for your $4.99 donation. And Joe in Space, thank you for your $20 donation. And they say, thanks for the awesome streams and the great information you guys provide. And then I got a couple of questions for you. Oh, we also want to thank Jacques for her gifted membership. Thank you so much, Jacques, for the gifted membership. And congrats to the recipient. And I got a question for you. Do you think we'll be able to see much because the deploying of the dummy satellites will be in the dark?
Launch questions.
Yeah, I don't know what exactly we'll see. It depends on what cameras they have on. Or if they put a spotlight on one of the sats or something like that, which would be kind of funny.
Or they'll use near infrared on their sensor. There's quite a bit of reflected light from depending where the moon is and also surface emission from Earth. So how dark is dark?
Yeah, and they probably redid a lot of their camera stuff too for version 3 since they redid a lot of the avionics as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's more capabilities on the cameras to see in lower light conditions. But I think that the Starlinks that will have a camera on them to image the shield will probably be an IR type camera.
That wouldn't be out of the question. It wouldn't take much light, would it? Maybe they do have a light on them a little bit.
It would take less infrared light than visible light to see the same stuff.
Yep. Thanks, Indy.
And it's all computer vision, so whatever frequency of light works best for what surface details are trying to image would matter.
And we may not actually see those views either. Just to get everybody's expectations set in line, we may not actually see that. It would be cool if we do, but there's no guarantee that we will.
Yeah, we might not see stuff in real time, but there's a chance that could get some really cool stuff during replays if it makes it there and during the recap and whatnot.
We've seen what deploy looks like. Anyway, we've seen a nighttime deployment, haven't we? Of dummy sets.
And then putting on lights on those little LED flat pack panel emitter isn't. Everyone has one on their phone, for Pete's sake. They're easy.
Yep. All right, thanks, Indy.
No problem.
No more questions?
No more questions.
Oh, that's easy. So, anything we've missed here at Sanchez? Oh, at Massey's there. Alex or Ryan's?
No, I can
Ryan's. Sorry, I apologise.
Ryan squared.
All right, let's go with Sanchez then. 2R plus Alex. Cool. Sanchez. So let's start over here. So not a great deal going on with the OLM construction, although we do have some leveling going on, or some increasing. Perhaps they're increasing the height to give the SPMTs a bit more room underneath. But they have been putting this sort of, I guess we'll call it shimming material on these stands. I guess it's a classical use of kind of a shim. It's just not the real thin shims you might normally think of. Totalizer station here that Alex pointed out for me in the show and tell.
Did they raise up the four corners too?
Yeah, because they put that new surface plate.
Which they haven't quite finished yet. So they're either leveling it, or they're just lifting the level up plus leveling, which I think is probably more closer to what's going on.
I still find it very odd that the top pieces showed up before the bottom, I guess, beam portions. It feels very out of place for a lot of the SpaceX, I guess, supplier scheduling. So I'm wondering if there's maybe a little bit of a redesign that they decided to implement.
I was thinking down a similar line, because it's backwards.
And those are not small pieces to store. I mean, there's a couple Cybertrucks worth of space right there that now just filled up with metal that's not going to move for probably a couple weeks at least.
Couple of weeks, a month or so to weld all to place and weld all these bottom pieces will take a minute. Maybe a month to weld all that together. You reckon a couple of weeks?
Well, depends when the pieces show up, but yeah, it's still a ways out. And space is a little bit of a premium now, so.
They're kind of lucky there a little bit. I guess they kind of have been sort of clearing spots a bit. A lot of this stuff is now in the dovetail up there at the launch site. I noticed they're clearing spaces. There's a few places they're clearing spaces here and there, like over here, they're clearing spaces. So they are actually trying to open up spaces, which I guess is but there's lots of things, isn't there, to fabricate for Pad 1 here. So they're going to need some space to get Pad 1 stuff built. So I didn't mean to make that sound like I was disagreeing with you there, right? Okay, so we've got the manifold that actually welds to the top plate, and hopefully they get this the right way around this time. Guys, that's the center, that's the outside. Get it right. Well, I think maybe I got it wrong. So they basically the reciprocal of these, and these goes onto the top plate to receive that manifold.
The wide cap at the end is on the outside.
White cap at the end is on the outside.
That wide section is on the
wide gap.
Yeah,
it matches the wide gap on the outsides of the actual manifold. Yeah.
I only thought when I said that I saw this gap here, but I guess that's the gap there. That by the time you double that little gap, that's that gap.
Yeah.
Because last time you might remember they had to move that pipe out to here or that one out to there, whichever way it was. Okay, also they've brought in some more of the... So we think there's roughly all of these pipes are here now. So we've got the main flame diverter bucket and then the two sides. Sorry, Ryan, go ahead.
Let's say the deluge happened. I just missed it again. Pay attention to something else. So that's the 5th full deluge in 2 days? 2.5 days? Then?
Oh, did they just do one?
They did one... They did one like 15 minutes ago. Missed it.
Oh, cool. I missed it. I'll go into that a bit more when we get to the launch site. There's been some awesome footage of that getting around lately. That's pretty funny, actually. Show actually how much sort of, even at the edge. I'll go over to the launch site. So this is the 4th methane skid for the launch site for the 4 tanks at the port connector road, I believe.
Or 2 of those tanks are methane. Since the 2 rib tanks also need their connections.
Oh, they need 2 of these as well, yeah. Could they use something like the old system like this, perhaps, for the 2 rib tanks?
That's a water pump.
Okay, but it's sort of... Oh, it is too. So it's possible... So you think they'll definitely use these skids as well on the rib tanks, like modular, like everything else at Starbase?
More than likely.
Yeah.
Or they'll sit there and not be connected and eventually get moved and replaced.
Oh, I like that 6th tank, little hot dog tank. Yeah, that could definitely happen.
Not likely, since they have the outlet connections for the main methane distribution manifold position for both of those. But just
true. Some I had the wrong photo. There's a much better, more clear photo here somewhere of that. Some flanges for the water deluge size pipes. Bits and pieces arriving, like you said, out of order. Still blurry. Let's try this one. Maybe better. No, that one's not better either. The luxury of having lots and lots of photos. So, this tank, this truck here's got a few more deliveries. Not quite sure. There's something big and round in that one, and a forklift, and some of those things, and some of those things.
There's 2 crates. What's the big round thing?
On the same truck, there's 2 of them, yeah?
Yeah, there's 2 crates, one stacked on the other.
Yep.
The other shot, you could see the demarc between the 2 of them.
Yeah. That's better, yep. Okay, so now transport stand. So an interesting update with the barge coming over. It's no longer got booster transport written on the document. Now it says ring walls. So a couple of transport stands to head back to Florida on the barge. Possibly a couple of ship stands and a booster stand, or at least one of each at least. Maybe that one. And the one over at Ringyard for the booster, as one guess. Because perhaps that booster stand, Alex, you're saying perhaps not these ones because these ones have their sensors on there. They may be a bit, if you don't have to have them on there for transport, whereas this one at the front here doesn't have those on there yet. And that would take like not much to put those sensors on. They probably just plug in basically into this stand.
Historically, they had stands that were more their favorite to take to the launch site because they had the sensors on them, but not all of the ring stands had those sensors for lifts. So it seems like, yeah, they may try to standardize that on a lot of these stands going forward.
Yep.
You're speaking crazy, Ryan.
I know, standardization. Wow.
Well, we have seen them learn that lesson over the years, so maybe they're going to keep up the good work and keep the standardization going.
I suppose also they maybe might put those on the barge, because didn't they change the manifest for the SpaceX barge for ring stands? So maybe one of these is destined to go to Florida.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I was getting at. Sorry. Yes. So I mustn't have my clear voice on this morning yet.
It's interesting. The parts for what we thought were to be another one of those heavy-duty trusses are missing.
Where is that? Further along, hang on.
Yeah, but they're stored by the flanges. Previously, the additional parts for one of those, and those
Oh, the
parts are
plates.
the plates and the square tube.
Okay, yeah. They're not along here. No. So, well, I don't mean to say, speaking of these, but over here, there's another truss section being built, but these are very different. These look like they're made out of two flat, like single pieces of steel that have had these sort of rounded triangles cut out, rather than actual made of steel beams and plates.
Well, they built their own box beams, is what that is.
And maybe there's still a piece of steel to go on top here by the look of it. And I don't know what that is. There was some talk that maybe it's to do with the flame bucket, but we sort of talked ourselves out of that. They're not really strong as the speed core mounts that are underneath the flame bucket, so probably not that.
Yeah, because the speed core also was that added concrete mass is good for dampening vibrations as well.
Okay, yep. This one here, yep. And they're totally different sort of construction. I mean, maybe these are to do with the breakover too, because only because of timing, but I've still really no idea what these are for, to be honest. You could say because it's painted black, but it's also test structures are black, so it's still a bit hard to tell what they're for, to be honest. I know it's changed with this test rig yet either, which is, I don't know. I'm still going along the idea that I don't really need to do all this testing before Flight 12, but just for going on forward for future flights and durability and maybe even weight reduction. They're going to continue testing bits and pieces to make sure everything continues to be reusable.
Oh, they clearly don't need to do it before Flight 12. Otherwise, it would have already been done. Unless they magically did it without us noticing.
I'm wondering if that structure is maybe more akin to like the COPV testing at Massey's, where they kind of take a unit and put it in it just for certification prior to flight. So like the whole grid fin assembly with motor might just get put in that, for certification testing, and that might live. Since it's black, maybe not in the factory, but I'm kind of tempted to think maybe it's more long term than kind of a temporary thing.
It could be, yeah. And because they're not bringing booster back to pad, they don't necessarily need to certify booster 19's grid pins. Perhaps. I mean, it would be bad, but it wouldn't be all that bad if the grid pins didn't quite work properly on booster 19. Obviously, it's not ideal. For cleaning up Rocket Garden they've moved all these bridge crane rails over here out of the way, and I guess to stop rust, I don't know, in air quotes, they've covered these with plastic, sort of covered them with plastic. Didn't actually notice that great big hole in the plastic. It seems like the cladding crew have had a break this over the last couple of weeks, or over last week at least. When we get to the building site, we'll have a bit more of an idea of why that is. They're sort of waiting for the concrete crews and a few other things to catch up. They kind of got themselves sort of caught right up to the other crews. So this is all exactly the way it was last week.
Well, there's that couple of weeks where there's winds and the steel erectors weren't active.
Over on the actual building, yeah.
Yeah, so that stall in the construction pipeline will eventually caught up with this. So yeah.
Oh, that's a photo I wasn't supposed to use. That one's a bit blurry. So over here, they poured this bit of concrete back here. Oh, and they've added more trenches.
Yeah.
Was it you? Someone said, yeah, they've added more trenches this side. I didn't notice, actually.
Yep.
And I believe they're going to add more of these slabs this way through here. They did pour a slab in here as well. There was a new we got a vault just in there. The photo's a bit blurry too, sorry. Okay, over to ring yard. Okay, on to this little thingy down here, little breakover. One of the breakover parts. They seem to be doing quite a lot of work on it as of late. Let me find a better photo. Was it this top down was a good one? Actually, let me try this one. We might just start on this piece just quickly. So this is, I didn't notice these top downs. I only noticed when I was going through the photos the second time last night. You can actually see out here where it's opened up as well to sort of help the booster, guide the booster into this part. And we can see they're adding some kind of, I don't know, rubber, I guess, or some kind of material in here, using these braces to hold it on.
A gasket, probably, just to kind of protect the booster and whatnot. And
it's probably the same type of rubber that they used on the flame bucket between the steel frame and the pipe sections.
Probably. Same concept too, basically.
Over this photo. Yeah, this photo shows. I didn't pick it last night. It's not this photo, but these white sections here also have that lead in on them as well. So from the angled photo, it wasn't quite obvious what they were. We can see them sitting up here on both sides. So it's sort of like a guide, I guess, to guide the booster in as well. Now, once it's on the booster, you would imagine that they'd want this on the bottom, yeah, of the booster, obviously. So there's like two clamps there that are past 180 degrees. So the center of the booster is actually sort of here somewhere, and then another couple of clamps down here, and then maybe a locator here, and then some sort of pads in between here to protect the booster again. So if that goes on to this piece over here, sort of working it out last night, you'd need the sort of the horseshoe that way with the booster coming in this way, and then lay it down back this way so that you end up with the horseshoe up that way. And then And then these have those little clevises here. So when this bolts on to maybe this one, it allows this to, when it's sitting vertical, it allows this to rock a little bit. So that so say there's an SPMT on this part and there's another SPMT on this part. When they go, down an incline or whatever, that will allow the booster, to be on an angle to the SPMT if they go down or up an incline. So that'll give that some freedom to rock backwards and forwards as the booster and the SPMT become, on different angles when they go up and over things.
You need that surface to stay parallel with the bottom of the the body of the booster. The saddle.
Yeah, allows this to stay in contact with the booster and allows the SPMT to sort of rock it backwards and on what do we call it, left and up and down, whatever.
You can think of it kind of a little bit like a suspension where it's allowed to kind of move a little bit in relation, move differently from like the ground below. So the booster can kind of be suspended indifferently from the rest.
And the SPMT will be also assisting with that, how it maintains the orientation of its top surface.
Yeah, so there's a second SPMT over here, and if they go up a surface, this SPMT will be elevated, so the booster will end up being like, there'll be an angle, say if that's looking sideways at it, if this SPMT goes up a little bit higher, the booster's now going to be on a slight angle, so they're going to need these, these to be able to, if we're looking side on, they're going to need to be able to sort of rock a little bit, I think.
And some of that will be achieved by the suspension and the SPMTs, since they can, how they position the tires, the contact points determine the top deck as SPMT, its angle and planes. So they're going to want to maintain those surfaces planar to the sets of SPMTs are going to want to keep their decks planar to each other with their transport programming.
I still think they're going to allow these to rock slightly. But we'll see. We'll see when they do it.
Actually, now that I think about it a little bit more, could it be that they want it to rock a little bit, or is that just for pins that they could take in and out, where maybe they put that on the side of the booster before they tip it over, and then lower it down, and then pin the clevises to the SPMT assembly?
I think that's probably a likely scenario, Brian.
It would still allow rotation, of course, but I think, from a primary standpoint, I think that may be what they're doing instead.
Yeah.
To pin them onto these and not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be disconnecting from those turntables as well. And it's hard when the legs they added to that lower horseshoe, when it's vertical, there's some, see if Kiwi can draw some models, because more than likely that horseshoe is going to stay with the turntable's not going to be with that horseshoe, and that's going to also latch into the barge as well.
Yep. So these will stay on the SPMT. When it gets to the barge, the SPMT will lower these down onto the barge and will disconnect. The SPMT will disconnect from this horseshoe and leave these on the SPMT.
Yeah, more than likely the SPMTs aren't going to travel with these.
No, then over Florida we see these parts to go onto an SPMT over there, so they can drive the Florida SPMTs with these under this at Florida on the barge and pick these up by lifting their suspension and driving up to Giga Bay, Florida.
I can't remember. Did we see pieces of the turntable in Florida, or like another set of these? I guess I'm trying to figure out if those are actually going to go with, or if they have a second set in Florida.
We've seen a satellite photo that had those by the Roberts Road facility. Basically the same set of what's here, the two turntables and the two saddles.
Okay, so those would probably stay stuck to the SPMTs, and then they just have like the horseshoes would actually be what travels on the barge.
Yeah. Which the pins and quick releases on the bottom of those horseshoe slings would kind of make sense.
Yep.
Or I'm
Okay, so
completely wrong. So there's that.
yeah. No, I think I agree with all that. That's for sure.
I'm still trying to think how they're gonna do this, like, because that horseshoe has to connect to the bottom of the booster with the same interfaces that they'd use to like hold it on a stand. They must have to like lift the booster up, attach this to the bottom of the booster, and then bring in the SPMTs, start, moving to horizontal. But that also implies that it's happening like in a building. So does that mean they'd be turning it like out of Mega Bay and using like bridge crane potentially to like lower the front of the booster down? There's still a lot of unknowns, so it's going to get a little interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting how if they do crawls this back end backwards while they're lowering it.
I think this has to be in the Gigabay to break it, to take it from vertical to horizontal. I think it has to be done in the Gigabay, and then conversely at Florida, I think it has to go in the Gigabay to pick it back up again, unless they use a crane. And the other thing, if it's got engines on it, they can't drop the booster straight down into this. They're going to have to slide either this onto the booster or slide the booster into this, because the engine bells will hit otherwise.
Yeah, I think if they did this in Mega Bay, they would probably lift the booster up, pull it off of the work stand, and put it in kind of the center floor area. Then this horseshoe would slide in from the side. They'd bolt it to the booster, clamp it, however they're going to actually fully affix it. And then they would have the other end of the SPMT would drive in with the clevises, probably clamp onto it. They would start driving it kind of out, the bottom out of the bay, so the top would still remain in Mega Bay, and then that would basically make it go horizontal down. And then they'd be able to pull in the other SPMT and connect the front portion. So I think it could be done in Mega Bay, but it's kind of there's a lot of orchestration that needs to be done to make sure everything's where it needs to be.
Oh, look at Mega Bay. I'll have to. Yeah, I've still got an idea this is going to be used with the horseshoe, and maybe that would be an SPMT under this that slowly backs out of the Mega Bay. I mean, in the Gigabay it's going to be a lot easier, I guess, but in the Mega Bay for now they'll have to back this out of the doorway as they're lowering the front down, and then eventually somehow get it into that. That is going to be tricky in Mega Bay, actually. Now you say that.
I still think there's going to have to be some sort of a jig for holding the top of the booster. I don't know if they're going to maybe use the grid fin sockets without grid fins in it. I don't think you could use it with the grid fins in place because you don't really have anywhere to grab onto for the full rotation. So it seems like, yeah, they might use the two opposite grid fins as a place to hold it, but that would require some custom hardware.
There's next to the transport mount, there's a whipple tree sort of they're modifying.
Oh yeah, that thing. I didn't cover that. Yeah. There's a new thing. It's the wrong colour, but don't need liquid paint could fix that.
It's a whip. It's not even close to being done yet, but it doesn't help unless it's clamped to the top of the grid fence. I mean the hot stage ring.
Yeah, that doesn't quite see what I would expect, but
no, I would see this more perhaps depending if they expand it all the way around, more ship related for the ship's also going to be interesting how they're going to grab it.
I just have a feeling that the vehicles are going to be a lot more incomplete when they travel than people think. Like, obviously the structure is going to be there, but I think the booster might not have grid fins on it when it goes.
No, I think there's a reason the Gigabay Roberts Road is so much further along than this one's.
So maybe with or without engines, still could be either way.
Yeah, that was a question we were talking about in chat. Why would they keep the engines on for transport? Seems unnecessary. like an unnecessary risk.
I'll only really say that because that's the line of thought that the booster is actually opposite of what Ryan was just saying, that the booster is actually more complete. But I mean, what I'm saying could be very much wrong, and Ryan could be very much right as well, that the booster is very much incomplete when it travels.
I think it really just comes down to the clearance. Like, if depending on how they actually rotate it and how much room that they need. I mean, because you also have to factor in, if they are going to do this in Mega Bay, there's a certain distance that they can't be up, or the booster won't, fit out the door, because they pretty much maxed out height-wise where they can be. So you got to think about, okay, with the SPMTs where it's at and the clearance, it'd probably be pretty close, but yeah, it really depends on how they do it, I guess, and how much clearance they have at the ground.
Yeah, whatever the assembly they use to grip the top of, because with the grid fins, Ryan, I don't think they could get it out the door if they're grabbing, depending where they're grabbing it. Because I agree with you. I think those grid fin sockets are probably the ideal place for making the cap to rotate it.
Yeah, they have to move the booster out at like a 45-degree angle, because perpendicular it's too wide for the door currently with the grid fins on it. So yeah, even if they lowered it down with the grid fins on it in the Mega Bay, they would still be perpendicular and have to like pull it out through the door, and it won't fit in that way. So yeah, I don't think they'll have grid fins on it.
That's a good point.
They're going to need to build a work stand as quick as possible in that new Giga Bay. Because also, if they don't transport it without engines, you're going to need one of those work stands operational to install the engines as well. So it's multiple different things.
I mean, they'll have stands in a month or a month and a half, and I mean, they have a couple months before that. I mean, there's even a booster ready to send.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a booster sent over there till, probably not even near end of this year. You're talking
probably fall. Yeah.
So then they would be in Giga Bay more than likely that they would do the breakover part.
In Starbase, Giga Bay will not be ready to do any kind of breakover till next year, is my guess. Or at least very late this year.
Well, that falls in line with your timeline of transporting it.
I don't think
the first booster breakover and transport to the Cape is going to be a very janky, very wonky thing for a one-time only, because it'll be the first booster they send. Because, the first booster they send, they better hope to God they actually catch that thing. Otherwise, they got to send another one quick.
I mean, it probably won't even be to July, August till this Giga Bay is completely sealed in with the roof and the bridge cranes. And that's probably fairly optimistic.
So you might have had us mistaken there, Indy. We're talking about the Giga Bay at Florida for the work stand to put the engines in. So it's probably going to get put back to vertical in a Giga Bay, Florida, but it's probably going to be laid down, the first one or two anyway, it's going to be laid down horizontally here in the Mega Bay at Starbase.
And who knows, they could just take it to the launch site and use one of the 11Ks to break it over here.
I was looking at the area they've cleared near this the jig construction, and it is interestingly like the length of a booster.
Yeah.
But I think we're still a ways away. I mean, obviously there's some infrastructure that would need to be moved or whatever, cut off. But I still think we're still a couple months away from a booster even probably testing a breakover. They may test it here, but I don't think that they're going to send one until probably fall.
Yeah.
So they break it over here, they will be able to leave the grid fins in. But I like the idea of the grid fin sockets, because that is structurally one of the strongest parts of the booster, isn't it, really?
We still don't even know what's in there either. I kind of feel like there's a T-brace that goes all the way across the tank to connect the...
That's my guess.
Yeah.
I don't know how else they get by with all that weight. And, like, The grid fin, the 3 grid fin sockets plus the dome. I have this feeling there's a T-brace or at least a truss between the 3 sockets that also integrates with the dome itself to support all that weight from not only the ship through the hot stage ring and everything else, but also the grid fin sockets. Like there's probably a lot of it that we do not see. And that's why I've been waiting for them to cut 18.18's forward open because I want to see. I want to see what's under there. But
Kiwi was suggesting that they could possibly sideload the booster lifting jig on the hot stage ring for the breakover.
I don't know if they have enough clearance.
Well, there's a question. They're gonna have to. I mean, because there's a cover over the barge. Obviously, they're going to drive them onto the barge and off the barge. I think that question comes up a couple of times, but that's pretty obvious. They're going to drive them onto the barge, and I think it's fairly obvious they're going to break it over here and then transport it horizontally too. I think it's fairly obvious now, rather than break it over at the port.
Are those stands by the fence next to the water tanks new? Down where they had all the bridge cranes earlier? To the right, the far right. Yeah, along that black fence, there's some not those pieces, the verticals straight down. Straight down. Right, that black fence, between that's going left to right. Up. You're so close. Up slightly and to the left. Are those white stands new? They're heading towards that hut.
Oh, I see. They look like little light poles, but I think they're for like cable tray or something.
Yeah. I don't know if are they removing that hut or are those new?
Let me look. I'll look from last week. Stand by.
All the concrete dust kind of implies they're new.
Yeah. I was hoping they were removing it because I like your idea of Ryan of them setting everything up out here.
So flyover last week. Let me look.
They're new.
I can't quite. Oh, I can just see.
They're doing something new there. Then, yeah.
Yep. Well, it probably still goes to support Ryan's ideas. I'll break it over there because. Yep, definitely new.
They've still got plenty of room to do that there. And
no, I mean, if they have like the tipping over point in that corner, they might have to run cable trays and stuff to it if they keep it fixed rather than on an SPMT. But
and just use a crane. So is there a crane tall enough at the build site?
Any of the LR, potentially even they'd probably have to use one of the crawlers. But the 11Ks could go on, right?
Could be the first job for SpaceX crane once it's back, maybe.
True. Yeah.
It's very easy to transport over to Sanchez right now.
Yeah, that's for sure. Could they use one of the Dito, whatever they call them, cranes on the wheels? Would that be strong enough and tall enough?
It'd be tall enough, but without riggers and stuff, those are sort of fixed based.
Meanwhile, the 11K makes it easy because it's a very robust crawler crane and it can crawl as you lower it if you needed to, like using a bridge crane.
It's like if they break it over in the mega bay, they would have to, the breakover would have to, like the opposite of the transfer tube, the breakover has to move, doesn't it? Because the bridge crane can't move out of the mega bay. So they could, in theory, use a stationary crane and make the breakover pivot point move away from the crane on an SPMT or something.
Yeah, there's multiple ways they could do it, but
cool. Breakover. That's an interesting development here at Sanchez. I mean, it was this week or last week? Sure,
we
we
have
better get
lots
through
of
some
breakover
questions.
questions. Yeah.
Of course there's
I
going to
thought
be.
before you move on. So you don't need to know is wondering, will the horizontal transports we're seeing be used with both booster and ship, or will they make a different transport system for each?
Well, this can't be used for a ship, obviously, because
Nope.
it's a booster bottom to start with.
The that half circle with that's going to get the gasket or whatever you want to call it, that could be used with both in theory. Same thing with the actual turntables or the bearings, basically. They would need to make something new for the ship aft. It's going to be a little bit more complicated to do that one.
Could they actually use the same horseshoe for the ship?
Well, it needs.
I mean,
Only the top
well,
pieces are telescoping, right, to make the circumference. Because if there's a different symmetry going on that piece, then some of those other connection points could possibly be used on the ship. I haven't paid much attention to this, to be honest, so I can't say for certain. But
I'm kind of with Ryan because the two different sets of hold down locations might correspond with. We'd have to look at the ship cart.
Well, the ship's that 3 and 3. What is it? I think it's because they were all equidistant before, but now they're not.
yeah, they're not anymore. So, but I'm wondering if that does correspond to some of the stuff we're seeing here. I'd have to ask Nick to look at that.
Because this with booster would mean the aft sits inside the cradle when those clamps hook into the side clamps. For ship, if they were to say mod it for ship would have to be like you would have to set the aft onto the ship, basically, so the skirt is sitting on top of the horseshoe, and then you would have to put ship clamps on those to hook into the skirt.
They're cantilevered though over the edge, so because remember,
I don't know if that would work. It wouldn't really work then.
I think it would. Because remember, the new booster hold downs with the balls and clamps both go.
Yeah, they're
inside the.
They're basically the exact. I would say the exact same distance or so into the 9-meter diameter as ship or close. So you could do that. You would have to set the ship on top of the thing, hook into like 3 of the clamps, and then use that to lower it. And then you could use the gasket horseshoe to hold the ship.
Those,
as long as the aft flaps don't get in the way.
I think those four of the 6 ship clamps would line. At least looking at this, look like they'd line up with some of those 4 of those additional.
So hook up 4 of the 6, and then you basically, instead of slightly fitting inside it, the skirt kind of sits on it, if you know what I mean.
You know? Yeah, if it's in the vertical orientation, the ship would sit on the horseshoe, with the pieces extending a little bit further so that they're actually under the ship versus just kind of interfacing with the side of it like they would with the booster. Yeah,
and then, that wouldn't be that hard to mod. So in theory, you could use both. You might be able to use both if you mod it right. But that is the kind of thing is we haven't seen a separate one built for ship yet, and they need to move both a ship and a booster. They need both.
Now, the one thing that does come to mind, though, that makes it a little more interesting is the ship on the skirt on the ship is strong, but I don't know if it's as strong in the direction that some of these forces might be acting on. So that might be a little more interesting.
Yeah, that is probably the only caveat is I don't know if the ship skirt could take that weight in that direction.
If you think about it with the booster, you basically have this giant metal plate on the end directly where these interfaces are happening. So when you go to rotate it, you're kind of rotating more or less like a coin, on an axis, versus with the ship, you're kind of rotating like a hula hoop. It's not structurally strong. It's going to want to bend potentially. So, unless there's some sort of a ring, I guess, that stiffens that lower part, that might be a little interesting.
Or go ahead and
Right.
build a 6-pointed rigid structural piece and shove it inside the skirt, weld it to the sides of the skirt without engines in it, and there you go.
Wait,
Like
the
that.
the
Like
adapter
that.
ring where to convert the ship aft to clip into the booster 20 for static fires.
Well, because that's the other thing too is, and I'm waiting to see it. It'll probably show up. It's probably over at Hangar M or probably someplace at Roberts Road at some point, as I doubt it'd show up at Starbase. But at some point, they have to make an adapter for the launch mount to static fire ships on, because they don't have any other way to do it at the Cape other than on 39A. So we're gonna see that at some point, and I think that whatever they use for that could also be used in some way for transport too. Why not?
Yeah, because
Just going back to the question. Sorry, just going back to the question whether this could be used for ship and booster. Sure, the steel frame could be, but I mean, this is going to have booster clamps on it, so you need a second one of these, a different one,
No, you just take the
modified
clamp
differently.
off.
yeah,
You
I
just
mean,
take the
there's
booster
four
clamps off and put extensions.
there's
Why
four
wouldn't they
clamp
just have two of them?
locations. There's 4 clamp locations currently that look like are set for booster, and then there's 4 additional hold down plates with bolts that we have no idea what they're for.
I mean,
Or
the
6 of them,
ship
I
one
should say.
could be getting built at the Cape, and the booster one here. They only really need one. They need one for each, because they're only going to be transporting a stack at a time. Why would you do more? Because once you get to the point of actually flying and catching ships, you're just going to fly, and you want to put a ship to the Cape. Why would you horizontally transport it and not just fly it there? That eventually you get to that point, but you'll still need to transport boosters. But ships becomes just fly it there, because for anyone who asks, no, absolutely not. You can't fly a booster there. That's not a thing. So unless you
I
put
have
it on
floated that idea that maybe they only transport boosters and they fly ships, but I think if they want to fly from 39A, like this fall or maybe this winter,
yeah,
I think that's out of question. They'd have to transport it.
I think eventually they get to the point of which they'll like when they start launch pads up at other locations. Once the pad is up and running, you just fly a ship there. But you'll have to horizontally transport boosters anywhere you want. That's the only, or you either have to build them on site or transport them. Ships,
Great.
once you're reusing them, you don't need to horizontally transport them anymore. That becomes pointless.
So one other thing I wanted to mention with that, Stephanie, your hand is on it there, that with the horseshoe that we think is for the forward area, given the shape that it is, I don't really see any provisions for like a raceway or pipes, especially like maybe toward the center there. So this would have to be placed in a location that doesn't have anything like on the exterior. So on the booster, you can kind of figure out where that would be. I'd be probably somewhere up, on the methane tank on the opposite side of the autogen line. But on the ship, it would probably have to be on the tile side, which means there'd be a whole strip of tiles missing in a location where that would interface with.
I think the biggest thing about that too is that kind of goes to show, the more you think about it, it's like, okay, well then that has to go on the rudder fin side, because that doesn't have any raceway, because the raceway and the methane autogen line are on the other side. So or it has to go on one of the catch pin grid fin sides, and at that point, the only point they can do it is there. So basically, there's no fin. At least there's no rudder fin. That has to get installed in Florida. Which, I mean, kind of
This side they've got raceways all the way. Yeah.
Well, they got a raceway and the methane autogen line that run all the way up.
Yeah.
So you can't. So.
All right, so let's move on to the next question. I think we've got quite a few by the sound of it. So yeah, interesting. So one option is they fly them, but still they have to make sure ships can, be reusable, very much reusable before that can be a thing too. I'm not saying that's not possible, but yeah, they could just fly ships, or they could make a second one, which could be based on this. But I don't think that keep changing this from ship to booster and booster to ship, especially they're going to take a ship and a booster together. They're going to need two of these, one modded for ships and one modded for booster.
But again, my point is there's 6 clamp locations on that aren't being utilized for the booster. I don't see why those couldn't be used for the ship adapter.
Here's the other thing.
Retract the booster clamps and just have the ship clamps sitting there ready for the ship to sit on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's the other thing, Stephanie, is right at the start, what you're gonna do is you're gonna transport a booster over, and then that booster is gonna have to get kitted out. Like, it's not gonna, at this rate, from what we've determined here, it won't have grid fins, and it very likely won't have engines either. Why risk those engines? So it's gonna go with no engines, no grid fins, which means it has to go into Gigabay at Roberts Road and get all that, and that's not necessarily quick. That'll take a few weeks to get it all ready to go. At which point the barge turns around, comes back to Brownsville, grabs the ship, and brings it over. By the time that's brought over, your booster's ready. It'll go on the pad to test the pad, and then your ship goes in, gets its engines or whatever else it needs to have done. It's finished off.
Tile.
They fully and tiled. They stack both after the booster's done its testing, and they tune the pad, and then you do full stack testing, and then you launch. And the barge comes right back for another ship because you're gonna recover that booster. I doubt you'll recover that ship at that point. Maybe they'll be recovering ships at that point, but I don't know if they'll land one at the Cape at that time. But that's a question mark. But either way, that's the order of operations you can do it, unless Just Read the Instructions is ready and they have another set of horizontal transports and breakovers ready. You can just use one. It's not like you need to transport both at the same time, and the Marmac 31 barge cannot do both at the same time. It straight up can't. So the only barge that can is Just Read the Instructions. So, yeah.
And yeah, to Ryan's point, there's no way the ship probably can go with engines, obviously, and whatever adapter rings they make will have to act as that stiffening ring on the bottom, and they'll probably perhaps ties that into the thrust puck.
The other thing I was thinking is because they have to do an adapter on the mount, they have to. They'll do an adapter that hooks into the new clamps. We've seen how good the new clamps are. They'll do it where it'll go into the socket and clamps. If they make an adapter for the launch mount that can do that, why not use that adapter for horizontal transport as well, so it adapts with that? Why not do that? And then you just hook it in through the aft dome or whatever, and boom.
Well,
there you go.
Again, whether the aft would buckle or not with the way that current edge is, it might not be able to take that load, and then you would need a transport adapter that's a bit unique. And there's 6 clamp locations that don't look like they're being utilized for boosters.
So I think you make an adapter for the mount plus transport.
Yeah.
And it works for both. The only thing I cannot wait to see them figure out is the QD adapters, having to take both back hoods off. That's going to be funny to watch. But anyways. Yeah.
So Creedman and Binaries have a similar question. They're wondering, could they hold the booster at the sockets for the stabilizer arms?
I don't think those are near strong enough for that. They're basically just little dimples for them to index on, for them, more or less.
There's no load bearing on those. You just use the grid fin sockets.
Where are they? They're down here.
Yeah. Same thing on ship. You can't really use those either. Ship, I think they can come up with a way to use the catch pin lip pins to like break it over. They probably can come up with a way to do that. Otherwise, you need some kind of fancy jig.
At least in terms of the aft for the ship, if they put it on the static fire adapter, they could do it. They could theoretically use have it pivot like they do with the Centaur ULA has for Centaur 5, where
Or
the aft part stays is the pivot point. Once it's vertical, then that jig is unbolted from the other part that it was riding, and that gets lifted up with the rest of Centaur. I'm trying to see if I can find a video of it here. I'm coming with photos so far.
What you do with the ship is you build a jig that hooks into, because we already know they can screw stuff into those catch pins. You build a jig that screws into those, that they can like screw the adapters in and then kind of grabs onto it. And then the other part of the jig hooks into the stabilizer mounts. So you got 4 points of contact. Heck, make it 5 points, make it 6 points of contact, hook into the 2 points on the nose cone. And then you build a shuttle jig, breakover jig. There you go. Huh. Why not?
Problem solved.
I mean,
I think they'll go the simpler route.
come on, we want to see that. We want to see shuttle stuff back again, right?
I think they'll still use the load points on the ship, but I think that they're going to be like completely untiled, and it's going to be something that kind of clamps onto the underlying structure that we don't get to see normally because they're tiled. So again, that'll be more unfinished than people probably expect.
Yeah, there you go.
What a machine. Atlantis, the last one to fly in 17 or 07? One of those?
2011.
2011, that's it. That's what I meant. That's what I said.
That's what I said.
M548 Cluster's asking, how will the chimes fit in the cradles? He can't see a V-shaped grove.
Yeah, we covered that.
They probably won't have chines or COPVs on it for the booster. I mean, they might. Well, here's the thing. So that thing is going to go on the methane tank. So there's no chines up there, and then there's no chines where the other one is hooking up. So the chines could be on there, unless they're going to get in the way of something. But I mean, as much as these vehicles will likely be somewhat unfinished going to the Cape, I still think you're going to want them at least somewhat finished. Like what they can do with the ship is they can go ahead and at least have they can have the booster and ship cryoed and done. It's just when you static fire them, they're going to have to be done at 39A. That's all. I think they'll at least cryo them before they go, just to make sure like the tanks are clean, the leaks are good. It's one less thing they got to do at the Cape. So I think that's like.
And then you don't. Sorry, Rye.
Go ahead.
You don't need to know is wondering, would they have to remove the grid fins off for transport? If you're talking about using that side for the horseshoe, one fin points straight down.
Yeah, we'll have to. I don't think it'll have any fins.
I just put the photos in Patreon Lounge of, if you go in the order of 1, 2, 3, that'll show the order of how they could do it with using that static fire adapter compared to Centaur 5's.
I'm just going to say this. That part on Centaur 5 is actually a main component of making sure the Centaur 5 doesn't collapse under its own weight. That tire structure. Centaur 5 is like a...
So if you click for the next images, you can see the progression.
Paper thin stainless steel balloon tank, basically, is what Centaur 5 is.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, if they could do something similar with the aft part there where it pivots and then goes with Centaur.
Yeah. Just like an adapter on the back of ship or something like that. Yeah, they could. But
yeah, regarding the rudder fin though, they wouldn't be able to have that on when they do the transport because it'll be sticking down too far. They'd have to have some seriously tall like pipe stands in order to set the vehicle on when it's horizontal on the barge, and I don't think that would fit. It'd just be easier to do all the grid fin install at the Cape.
It's not much to install grid pins, really. That's not a major sort of process, really.
They seem like a very self-contained unit, which is kind of what I've been thinking for a long time, that the motor seems like it attaches to the fin itself, and then they basically just push it in the socket, bolt it in place, and then hook up a wire harness, and that's basically it. There's probably more to it than that, but it's much simpler than it used to be with all the linkages they'd have to do up top and all the separate assemblies.
Yeah, like this other thing over here, where it is. Yeah, that's like 12 over there. Yes. Oh, this, it's been removed, hasn't it? Anyway, yeah, all this linkage and stuff up in here, yeah, it doesn't have to have all that these days. Yeah, I would imagine that if this was inside the booster, there's just a spigot at this end, and they've only really got to bolt the main bolts here on the outside to actually mount the grid pin in. Like I said, a simple wiring harness probably first, then slide it in, do the outside bolts, and that's about it. Okay, I better move on with the questions. Thank you. These are great answers, by the way. Thank you very much.
So that's it for the breakover questions. We can carry on, and then I have more questions for you towards the end of this section.
Oh, not much more to talk about. The ship transport stand is on SPMT, so it's likely to go back onto that stand to go down to the launch site when it finally gets its act into gear and gets itself down to the launch site after the booster gets down there. So really expected to see the booster already at the launch site, but that didn't happen overnight. So here we are with that. Otherwise, I think I've pretty well covered the launch site. One thing we did notice was the explosives signs are out on both Mega Bay 1 and 2, which indicates that booster and ship actually have STS installed, I think.
Shocked Pikachu face. That's all. I'm shocked that the vehicles that are supposed to fly in like 3 days have FTS installed.
Some people were sort of wondering because they're moving them around so much, and in the past it hasn't been like that, but these days they're fine to have the FTS installed.
They've integrated the FTS into the raceways. So when they're ready for it, they put the FTS on, and they have hard stops, hardware blocks through the QD, hardware and software blocks. So there's no chance of them going off. So.
Yeah.
And the explosives themselves are actually extremely safe. I mean, I know we've probably talked about this before, but the explosives that they're using, you can basically throw in a campfire and it doesn't explode.
It'll actually catch on fire and
it's very like inert stuff.
Plastic, it's C4. It's incredibly stable.
The blasting caps
until it's not.
Are a little different.
Well, like in order to set off C4, you literally need a blasting cap. Like you need another high energy event to set off the high energy explosive. Like, yeah. So
I think you were trying to say that, weren't you, Alex? They need a cap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Energetics.
Okay. So we might finish up those questions at Sanchez anyway. Indy, thanks.
Okay. We'll start off with the donations again. We want to thank Drunar for his $5 Canadian donation. And he says, happy birthday, Joe. Have a cold one on me. Yazada, we thank you for your $5 donation. And he says, all excited for Flight 12. We also want to thank Jess Martin for his 5 gifted memberships. Thank you as always, Martin. We appreciate your generosity. And once again, he did another donation for £5. And he says, choo-choo train. And then we have some questions. Drew's asking, what if the grid fin tester is for testing grid fins after a catch?
Don't know about that. It's mainly it's to test the actuator rather than the grid fins, obviously. Yeah, no, I don't think so. Maybe that's a good idea. Maybe it's a good idea to retest them once it's landed, make sure they're still okay, I guess.
Schizoquark is wondering, how long will it take to transport boosters on SPMTs to the port? He's assuming that's the plan.
How long does those transports take? About the same time it takes to bring a tank back from the port to here? How long does that take, Webby?
To get those to the port. Well, it's gonna take it. It depends on how fast they go. With just a transport stand, they can go relatively quick. It'll still take a few hours.
Wait, are you trying to say time equals distance over velocity?
Sure. Yeah.
It would certainly take a couple hours, and they probably have to be a lot more careful in the turns because, having to pivot and kind of, maneuver it around tight corners is going to take a little bit more time than just kind of driving a shorter tank.
Oh, you're talking a whole booster. Oh, I thought you were just talking to transport stands. A whole booster is going to take several hours, I think. I think it'll take a while. Like you'll see a production to port closure pop up, and it'll probably be like a 10-hour closure, and they'll take a good chunk of that.
We should measure it. We should measure it in drone batteries for live stream.
Right, it's gonna be a long stream when that happens. Really, it's gonna be a long one. Marathon stream. Let's go.
We also got a bunch of donations through PayPal, so thank you for those. Ulrich, we want to thank you for your $6 donation, and they said soft breeze under the wing. John H., thank you for your $50 donation, and they said flight 12 flight. We appreciate that. And we got a $195 donation from Bam in Italy. He says, keep up the good work and thanks for all you do. If you guys want to donate through PayPal, you can do that. I'll put the link in the chat once more. That will go towards the flight because Mauricio plans on being up in the air for Flight 12. So we get some actual live footage as well as amazing photographs. He did it once before and hopefully he'll get to do it once more. So thank you all for your generosity in both PayPal and in YouTube. And then I got another question for you. Daniel's asking, do the new ship transport stands fit over the trench? New legs come out fairly far, right?
Not the transport stands, no, the smaller ones. It's only these kind of crab-legged stands like the one here on the left go over the trench.
And only the flame trench at Massey's, obviously.
Yeah. There's no stand adapter yet for the new pads setup.
And they need to be the height too for the SQD to connect up as well, obviously. So no, they'll only ever take these to the static fire stand at Massey's. Yeah, never a transport stand for Massey's. So I'm not sure whether that's where the question was going there, because these stands, the transport stands, obviously can't be used for anything to do with static firing or cryo testing, whatever, integrity testing. Thank you.
M548 Clusters wondering, specifically asking Ryan, how will they static fire at, he said KFC, but I believe he means KSC, because engines removed for transport?
Well, they'll put it onto a work stand in Gigabay. They'll install the engines, get it ready for static firing. They'll build an adapter to go on the mount there at KSC, and we're going to see, it's going to be hilarious seeing a ship on that pad over at KSC, probably at 37 as well, unless they build a separate, ship static fire trench over at 37, or somewhere else. They're gonna have to use the pads to static fire ships.
I can see a static fire stand at 37, to be honest.
Like, I could see that, and then why not? And then you can build a catch tower next to it, right? Or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, if you build a catch tower, you might, and a stack fire stand, why not just build another launch pad?
That's the other thing too. Yeah, I mean, it's got a point, because it already takes a decent amount of construction even just to build a ship static fire trench. So why wouldn't you just build another mount? Although that's significant, it takes a decent amount more time, but still, point taken.
There is, one downside of kind of doing it on the pad is that you do have to lift it off of a transport stand, put it on another structure in order to actually do your testing versus with these static fire stands or the cryo stand that's here, they can basically just roll it right up, bolt it down, and then immediately go into testing. So
And
there is that duration that they're saving by using a stand that can just plop over the trench and fire.
plus modding the mounts in order to take the 2 QDs and put it into one, because you have to do that every time as well.
Add a third QD. Call it good.
They certainly could. I've floated that idea in the past that, certain pads could be unique in having a third QD for just a ship.
The other thing, though, I would say to that is if they really want to do the launch cadence that they want to do, they straight up, period, absolutely cannot at all whatsoever continue to use the mounts to static fire ships. They can't.
So you're saying they can't do that, right?
Like, if they want to launch hourly, no. Absolutely not.
From an efficiency standpoint, go ahead, Alex.
At some point, just load up the ship on a booster, stack fire on the first flight. It either goes or it doesn't.
Yeah.
You lose some Starlinks. Sorry. That's a crazy idea for today, Brian.
Yes, from an efficiency standpoint, it definitely makes sense to have at least one static fire location at the Cape, so that once they're producing vehicles, they can leverage that. I don't think we'll ever see a area that has maybe multiple ship static fire stands. I mean, it should be pretty simple. They should be able to just roll it out, static fire, roll it back on the span of 2 days. So, or even within the same day, honestly, at some point. So I think they will have something at the Cape to do that. But until they reach a high cadence, it doesn't make a lot of sense to invest in that infrastructure.
Granted, they didn't open the flaps, they didn't static fire, but they just rolled 39 out, did what we think could have been an igniter test. And then rolled it back within 28 hours.
Which
28 to 30 hours.
Which is almost pointing that they will have, to some point, make a static fire igniter stand if they continue with that. And Wise A they have the pads for the crab stand at the launch mount.
Yeah.
And once they have the license, then they can do their vehicle site with propellant testing with the FTS installed.
Yeah, that's a big thing they still have to get for the Cape.
Yeah, I mean, once they install the FTS, then it's a FAA sanctioned for any of their ground testing with the vehicles.
All right, good question. We better keep moving along. Thank you very much for those awesome answers. Thanks, Indy.
Of course, we got a few more for you. We want to thank Drew Nar for his $5 Canadian donation, and he says, what says the catch towers at LC-37 need a mount for booster instead of a ship? Use ship catch towers to static fire ship and booster catch tower to static fire boosters. Use ship catch towers to static fire ship and booster catch towers to static fire boosters. There we go.
That idea, I guess we've probably talked about that a little bit, but also in the past it's been talked about. But there is a potential that they could have ship static fire infrastructure coupled with a catch tower, so that it's kind of all in the same location. There's pros and cons to doing that. I'm not sure we need to super get into the nitty gritty on that, but it is a possibility they could do that if they wanted to.
Zesty Zomp is wondering. Yep, Zesty Zomp is wondering, what is your prediction SpaceX will use inside 39 as a microgravity mascot or item?
Who knows? Media@spacex.com. There.
Webby's positive attitude and my grumpy attitude.
Could be a couple of 10mm bolts floating around too.
There you go.
Oh, God.
No, sockets, not bolts. Sockets.
Drew's also wondering, so Centaur needs some stringers, like enough for 38 tons?
Centaur needs a lot. If you want to, I'm not going to go into this thing, but just to say that Centaur 5 in its current setup, unless they build a load reactor for it, cannot take Orion and its service module. But we don't need to go into that right now. That's a whole rabbit hole.
That's it for the questions for now.
Cool. All right. So I didn't mention before ship 17's being more scrapped, pulled apart. I was going to say. So there's a good chance they might just take the aft dome off this and leave the manifold, and then we'll have 3 different manifolds to put on display. We'll start with the version 3 manifold over here, and version 2 manifold over here, and of course over at the build site. 1 second. We've got the booster 4, I believe, is it? Manifold. Where is that? It's over here. It's this photo here. This photo here. So we've got this other version, I guess 1.5-ish manifold here. So looks like they're keeping their aft manifolds for now.
I did not know they kept that. That's the first time I've I've known that was there. A little spider in the corner.
It's kind of hilarious, honestly. It's going to be funny. They're going to keep all the main manifolds for all the V1. That's like a true V1 booster because of the 29 engine, and then the first 33 engine, and now the Block 3 booster. It's going to be kind of funny, honestly.
It only showed up sort of the last week or two. We've only just found it. They're like little Easter eggs.
It was sitting next to the one of the sheds there that they demoed out for whatever that groundwork they're doing. It was sitting
over here somewhere.
Yeah, sitting next to that for
years. It was by the entrance of one of those fleet maintenance buildings. And then we just noticed that it was moved over here just a couple of weeks ago. We didn't know where it had gone to.
I'm with Ryan Hansen. I had no idea it was even still around until a couple of weeks ago. So there you go. Very good. All right, so we can probably head up to the build site now. Actually, we're there. We'll start at the other end of the build site though, up to the Gigabay. Some really nice panoramas this week as well. Beautiful colours, beautiful clear weather for the flyover. It's always really nice when we get some really nice weather. Okay, Gigabay. So Gigabay's, it's not so much slowed down. They started over this side as well for this next level. They're into some sort of fiddly stuff as well. And getting up in this sort of area, it's starting to get a little bit fiddly. And I think Alex was saying they've had some windy days as well. They've had to contend with.
There's some windy days a few weeks ago. There's also the week or so, but when they set these things before they start working on the next level. So they're finally back to main steel erecting.
Yep, a little detail over here. I think I've got it kind of right. The little bridge cranes. So each stacking bay is going to have bridge crane rails going this way just for the stacking bay. So we've got the 2 here, and then there's this detail here is where that end of the bridge rail is going to be installed into. The roof trusses will go on soon up higher in here.
There's the full length columns that go on there. That the top section is the top floor is roof trusses. You have the 60-foot column, and at the 30-foot mark is where the roof trusses will start. So yeah, there'll be another full-size column on top of that, which will include the top parapet wall. So that'll be the next column will be the final height column.
And we can see the longer bridge crane rails will be going along here for each aisle here. So possibly 2 400-ton bridge cranes per aisle, and then 6 sort of smaller bridge cranes one per stacking station through here. There was a photo, kind of clever. I guess it was a bit deceptive. They kind of clever. They got the angle right to see. Almost looked like they had some cladding across between the factory and the Giga Bay somewhere on X through the week, which was kind of, I don't know. They kind of made the post look like it was actually connected. They should have maybe just stayed with the comedy side of it, because it was kind of like deceptive. Now in this photo, you can see they're still working on that opening down there. They haven't taken the brace out yet. Sure, there's going to be questions about Gigabay, but yes. And now down on this wall down here, I think this photo shows it. Down here, they're starting to fill in this little gap here with some framework. And the concrete crew, they're starting to do a little bit. They can see over this side here, they're halfway along. I keep forgetting what level numbers they actually are, but along here somewhere you can see they've started concrete on the front of this level, and they haven't finished that level yet. So the concrete crew are continuing along. And that could also be one of the reasons between the steel erection guys and the concrete guys. The cladding guys need to wait for those sort of be finished before they can clad on the sides. And yeah, like we've seen before, you're saying, Alex, every time they sort of finish a level, they need to run around and finish up all the bolts, I guess, get everything really squared up properly before they actually go ahead and continue on the next level up. Now, what we thought were elevator frames aren't actually elevator frames. These have been rising up as they go with the actual building. These have been on every level as it's come up, so they're part of construction, not actually elevators. So we almost made that mistake in last week's script. But lucky BJ came back on the scene and helped us out and said, no, that's not what they are at all. Just delete that sentence. The last week we were sort of saying they might be the tops of the elevators, but they're not.
Looks like there's a big scaff tower there.
He did say what they were, but I forget what he said. Okay, so Gigabay, I'm sure, like I said, we'll get some questions for that. Now in the bays, we can get a little bit of a glimpse of booster, where are we going? Booster 20. Booster 20. Booster 20 on this side. So it hasn't gone to the masses yet. So they seem to be keeping them on this turntable these days. I think you're Ryan Webber, you were saying, until they get them ready for cryo testing before then they move it off this for cryo testing, then onto the back stands for further fit out.
Very much.
And over the back corners, booster 19. So it's sort of three or part thereof. Boosters in Mega Bay 1 with booster 21 over here. Still only a couple of pieces of its LOX tank here.
Yeah, it still needs 2 more LOX tank pieces, and then it'll get its transfer tube.
Yeah.
It's at least 2, but yeah.
Mega Bay 2 has got ship 40 in the back left. Ship 39 now in the front left. And over the back here, ship 41 or part thereof.
A nearly complete 41. It's missing its aft section. That's it.
So it's got its transfer tubes and everything. It's just ready for its actual aft section, which we should see roll out this week, more than likely.
Either they go ahead and finish it before 39 gets its payload, or they're going to wait for 39 to get its payload and then do it. But right now, the door is open, or at least partially open, and 39 is in the front left stand. Don't know the orientation it's in. The static fire stand left, and nothing else is happening. No road delays, no nothing. I have this feeling either they saw something would ship during the testing, saw something when they brought it back, or they're just not rushing because the pad straight up isn't ready. Because, like, if they brought the booster out to the pad last night, they wouldn't have been able to do the deluge test they just did. I think the pad's straight up not ready. And that's why booster's not rolled out. I think, because the booster lifter is installed. They put that in yesterday. It's hooked up. They would just need to roll the transport stand in and put the booster on it. But I think that they're waiting on the pad more than anything else at this point. And they're just kind of doing some extra work on 39 while they have the time to. Because why not?
So just going back to breakover, they could, in theory, use 2 bridge cranes, couldn't they? Actually hold the top and bottom and actually break it over like they do with 2 cranes, but actually use 2 bridge cranes, couldn't they?
They could, but their breakover horseshoe doesn't look like. It looks like that's designed to rotate rather than them lowering it into place on top of a broken over. I mean, in theory, I guess they could have it vertical and lower it down, and that's why they have on both of them the lead-in guides.
I sort of thought maybe with the horseshoe. Yeah, anyway, that was just a question came up in chat. We'll probably get to in a minute. All right. I sort of should feel like we should keep moving here a bit. They did rename these bays over here northwest. Northwest?
Yeah.
Yeah, northwest, yeah. And these ones just have numbers. Not much really to look at over here. I guess the big thing over here is that Star Park everyone's really interested in. So we have a shot from this angle. So they've added a new bit of formwork to do some more of the shotcrete wall. So there's another wall going up in here. We can see those beams that were formed last week are now poured. And the car park's taking place. Sorry, the parking lot's taking place. They may have a second car park over this side.
And then a booster in the ship in the middle, maybe.
I'm thinking here, a booster and a ship here.
Yeah. Kind of, I thinking. But I'm waiting for them to bring in a pile drill just to do it because why not? Or they'll just make footings.
They'll probably put a big floating mat. They're not very heavy.
I sort of thought they might put a like a booster in here. So they made because there's all these steel embeds here. They could create like there might be a steel floor here, which they could have left a hole for a full booster here. But you'd think if they did that, they would have done the foundation work first.
And around there is going to be all the generations of Raptors, possibly all the generations of, and somewhere around there is going to be all generations of the plumbing that they have saved. So it's going to be a combination of a bunch of different things. It's going to be a little visitor center for with a ship and booster for Starship. That's what it's probably going to just be. A bunch of relics.
So there were supposed to be bathrooms part of this, right?
Which could be down in here. Now it looks like these embeds look like there's going to be a beam, and there could be a post to hold that beam up, and it looks like they've already got little attachment points here. That looks like it belongs to this.
Yeah, I guess what I was kind of getting at was that if they put bathrooms down underneath here, that they'd have maybe a steel roof, which would be an elevated point to look at the vehicles that could be, staged out in front, as well as provide a pretty decent view of the launch site. Not sure if they would necessarily let people be up there during a launch, given how it is a little bit closer to the launch site, but that was kind of a thought that maybe some of the locals or employees there could maybe go up there and watch a launch from that platform.
There's an employee entrance in that back wall.
It's going to be, I'm curious to see what it's going to look like when it's all said and done and whatnot.
but
There's definitely going to be a roof there based on the columns and the embeds for steel. So it's going to be covered.
Yeah, and maybe because of these ramps or staircase, whatever you want to call them up here, I'm pretty sure it's going to be publicly accessible, this platform.
Yeah, the curved area is going to be the public, and then behind it's going to be the private space for the people who work there.
And maybe some kind of little office under here, like an actual visitor centre, like a little office.
That
Maybe
whole area
like-
is going to be covered with a roof.
Oh, maybe even a wall across the front here. That's actually like a building under there.
Or is a covered display area with a building behind it, with an enclosure behind it.
Yeah. Yeah, it does look like they're going to have, looks like a booster and ship on display here. Because weren't they worried about them tipping over? Like, would they need the room? Like, they used to close off Remedios Avenue when those winds were too strong.
The vehicles were a lot, I guess, not built as sturdy. It was mainly like the payload section. If it, wasn't pressurized, they were kind of worried about it collapsing. So they would close off the road for hazards like that.
And since these aren't flight articles, their interiors are probably going to be heavily reinforced.
Okay, so that won't be an issue, yep. But yeah, so yeah, maybe a booster and ship out the front here and some displays, yep. And now there's heaps of room for other displays all the way through here to put other, like the manifolds we saw and other bits and pieces. A couple of Raptors on display would look good, I guess. We haven't really covered that apartment building much over the last few weeks because they're sort of in finish up stages. There's really not much going on with it at the moment. All the glasswork seems pretty well all but complete. The little fences here, little balcony railings sort of seem to be getting complete. They are using the the garage, for employees rather than contractors now for the office, I guess, for the office.
Looks like they got the glass in those little guardrails, those outdoor areas.
Let's see if I find a better photo. Have they got glass on them, have they?
Looks like it from when you were just zoomed in there.
Oh, wrong side. Maybe that's the side I need. I couldn't quite see it whether they're glass or rail or stainless steel wire.
Yeah, it's hard
Really
to
need
tell.
ground.
Just it looks like it's a slightly different color, almost like a tinted glass.
Not on that one yet.
It's hard to tell with all the noise.
Yeah. Turn the volume down. All right, so build site. I think that's pretty well the build site. So we got any questions for the build site? We've got to keep a move on as well.
We do. Todd, if you're listening, Todd, can you please check your DMs and then let us know? We also want to thank Turtle Sanctuary for his $20 donation, and he did that in 2 steps, 2 $10 donations. And Turtle says, I'm glad that everyone agrees with me that Flight 12 will definitely launch on the 19th. And the second comment was, or possibly later. We also want to thank James. Yeah, we also want to thank James for his $10 donation. And he says, just wanted to say I really enjoyed these shows. I learned something new with each one. Thank you all.
Thanks for positive feedback. Really, really appreciate it.
All right. Todd, go ahead and take that last donation.
All right. I want to thank Martin for a $10 donation. And I think this is the one that got my nickname, but I didn't know it. So I had sent that one to Matt. So he says, Betty bought a bit of butter, but the butter Betty bought was bitter. So Betty bought a better butter, and it was better than the butter Betty bought before. Yes.
Yay!
I think you even did that with a British accent there, did you?
I don't know. I was just trying to get the words out.
Well done, Todd, and thank you for your £10 donation, Martin. We appreciate it. All right, first question. Brian is wondering, so those trusses going across have to come out of the main bridge cranes? Out for the main bridge cranes, right? He's asking about Gigabay.
Yes.
Here, like the rails
Or-
going here. Is that what they're asking?
Or the ones between the work sites stations.
These ones run this way for the rails, and then the actual, what do you call it, the girder for the actual bridge crane runs.
There's the truck and the trolley.
The trolley runs this way.
The truck runs, yeah, the trolley goes on the truck. The truck goes left, right.
Yeah.
And the trolley.
So the rails, the fixed rails go here anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, then the main bridge cranes, one set of the rails run along that, on top of that, on those parts, and the other side of that main bridge crane runs. The rails run through there, and there are the rails we see at Sanchez sitting over there. You see them in this photo, sitting over in that area there. Over there, there are some of the rails for the bridge cranes. Thank you.
Andrew M. is wondering, could they possibly static fire ships over the Falcon Trench at 39A?
What? No. Let's just to start off. The trench could handle it just fine. The problem is making a stand to go over it, and then also routing all of the propellant lines required to it. I mean, they've got the locks that'll work, although I don't know what the subchill difference is between Falcon and Starship, if they do anything different on that front. And there's no methane running to it, so they have to run the methane line. And the locks line wouldn't really work for Falcon because of the load time, so you would have to run the Starship locks line anyways. There's a lot of different reasons as to why they can't do it, or if they would try to do it, it would take forever to set up. It would take a while.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things that like SpaceX tries to not do with the whole mantra of like removing the requirements and making them less dumb and whatnot. That the decision tree to the engineering that goes into that is far more than probably what they should be investing. So they probably would never do that.
Plus, the Deluge is not set up for a ship. It's set up. I mean, Falcon Heavy is powerful, but it might be enough.
It's how the plume impact, where the plumes hit the deflector is what's important.
Yeah.
As well as the flow rate. And to my knowledge, Falcons are running closer to triple point oxygen, which is quite a bit.
Either way, there's a lot of engineering that would go into it, and it would take too long, and it wouldn't really make sense, to be honest.
Yeah.
The trench would be fine. I mean, the trench was built for the solids and Saturn V. Heck, it was built for Nova. That's 8 F1 engines, so a ship wouldn't really be that much to it, but yeah.
The deflector was, but they're not using the Apollo deflector. So it's a deflector surface that would. And yeah, if they want to go crazy, which this is just complete fantasy, especially from what Ryan just said, is, I mean, they used to have the deflectors on tracks. They could roll out one and push in a ship deflector if they wanted to. But again, that's just so far away from SpaceX. That's us. It's too crazy to even contemplate.
They would definitely build a adapter for the launch mount and go to the links of engineering and the QD and do all of that before they did any of that other stuff.
Right.
Yeah, because to try to do all those mods means you're not flying Falcon Heavy, and Falcon Heavy has flights to do. And they're gonna want to do that instead.
Long story short, no.
Yeah, and they don't have and if they also do that, they don't have another pad to launch Falcon Heavy from. 40, you would blow 40's pad up if you tried to do a Falcon Heavy from that pad. I'm not kidding. It's not remotely designed.
I know you're not.
I mean, they keep threatening to build Slick 6 at Vandy,
and don't.
But that wouldn't give them enough inclinations that they have from.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And here's the question that Stephanie was alluding to earlier. Schizo Quark is wondering, bridge cranes moves to the doorway, lowers booster. SPMT holding the base scoots out the door onto the highway as the breakover mechanism pivots. Both only experience vertical forces, loads, question mark?
Yeah, I kind of didn't quite understand the question properly. Yeah, there's, like we were talking before, there's multiple different ways this could possibly go with the breakover. Well, it's probably best just wait and see what happens, to be honest.
We could speculate all the live long day on this thing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I'm trying to move us along a little bit. So yeah, let's leave that there. I think. And you thinks.
Okie dokie. We can carry on.
All right, cool. Off to the launch site. Yeah, really nice. Yeah, like the colours this week and the clarity is really, really nice this week. That's my new desktop picture for this week. Okay, pad 2. So we've got some water deluge testing. We've got our own water deluge video. Let me have a quick look for that. Here it is. We managed to get our own bit of video of the actual deluge test. Pretty full on. That is so much water. We don't need that volume after all. Then there's the big exhaust, big depress vents. And that'll be a water deluge test. So we're seeing quite a few of them this week. I forget, Ryan, how many Reby, how many they've done this week now?
Like 5 in the last 2.5 days, I think, that I know of. There's been a lot of tests. We'll just go with that. I've tested it a lot, and I think it's part of the reason why Booster's not out there yet, because I don't think the pad's ready. I don't know if they're refilling it again to go again at some point today. I haven't been paying too much attention to Movac trucks coming in or not.
Looking around the place, there's a little bit of evidence of water. I can even hear some rocks have moved as well because of the water deluge testing. It's a lot of water. So we saw Zeke. We have a look on Expert. Zeke said standing over here in the water. They had and there was Max as well, wasn't it? Max Evans, is that right? Was over here as well. Had a bit
it was
fun
Gage
playing.
and Ezekiel,
Yeah,
and
Gage.
then Max got the two of them.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Had
Getting covered in potable water, am I right? Right, Alex? Potable water?
It's supposed to be. Unless they've updated. I haven't pulled the documents. But if it wasn't, and they did, then they're out of compliance, so which would be utterly ridiculous for them to do.
Totally ridiculous. Totally ridiculous.
So slightly jealous that those two got deluged. I think that was a bit exciting for them. But then the police came along and said, no, you can't do that again. So next time they did a deluge test, they made everyone stay back here somewhere. It's not every day you get to be deluged by the biggest water deluge system on Earth?
What's that
I'll be
line?
honest.
Sorry.
I'll be honest, it was a little weird though. I mean, I kind of asked the question of like, do they kind of clear the area before they do those tests? Because it clearly throws water onto the highway, which is, I mean, from the aerial view, it looks like it's an insane distance, but it actually does throw the water that far. But yeah, it's a little bit of a safety hazard. I guess I was kind of surprised I hadn't really been enforcing that until now, but it's kind of funny.
Until right
Yeah.
after they all got deluged.
It's
The first time they had the sheriffs there was when they popped the top deck combustor lid.
it's the largest deluge for a single pad. The only one that would be larger in terms of like in terms of water reservoir is Stennis, but it's a massive reservoir that feeds multiple test stands. So
Yeah.
It's however much water they're delivering per flight, which is in the PEA. It
Yeah.
stipulates their top end that they can do. Or again, they're out of compliance, so
Oh
I
no, they have to pay a very small fine that doesn't do anything to
or
hurt SpaceX.
or they pull their license,
Yeah.
depending which administrations are.
Yeah, and this
You're blatant, and if they can enforce or blatantly violating the EPA laws, they can shut the whole project down. So no, it's not just it's a fine. They're only spraying water. It's processed water, and there's very strict rulings for how processed water is being sprayed into a protected habitat.
Yeah. Again,
So
that's if the current administration actually cared, which they don't.
it doesn't matter because future administrations would use it that they've been blatantly breaking their agreement if they were an exceed and fine them appropriately. It's not just it's just a clerical error. It showed malice and intent because they've already been fined and they're also are already under a consent decree with the EPA. So
Especially
I
once the
have
public
been
then have to answer to shareholders, that probably wouldn't go over very well, even if it was just a quote unquote small fine that still wouldn't go over well with shareholders.
I truly am kind of surprised at how much they fired this deluge because they were very, very conservative with the Pad 1 deluge. Very conservative. This one, they don't care. They have fired this thing off so many times and dumped so much water out into the wetlands area, the protected habitat area.
it's not the
It's
amount of
hilarious.
water they're dumping. They have a license that says how much they can dump per annual. It's the what water they're dumping. If it's not potable water, unless they've pulled that requirement, which I haven't seen in any of their document sayings that, but I haven't done the effort to pull up their waste license from Texas, which would say, which has to be also in compliance with the Clean Water Act. So,
But they have been bringing in potable water though. The tankers have been coming in from town to top it up. They've actually have been using potable water.
Yeah, it's what
but as soon
happens
as it
after
goes
we-
through the deluge once, it's no longer potable. It's processed water, and unless
And they've been taking this reservoir water, this water. They've been taking that away from the site. So they're bringing a full tanker, dump it, then they're taking dirty water
they'd
out.
have to take those water. They'd have to take whatever residuals in the bottom of the trench, and that water out.
Yeah.
Especially because with the way the gas generators are firing in, their exhaust into the water it's definitely processed water because they're from the exhaust coming out of the gas generators and the brownish hue of it is an indication that they have nitric oxides in it, so it's acidifying the water, so it's completely industrial processed water at that point.
But that's what's coming out of the flame trench, though, isn't it? Into the wetlands. But the industrial processed water.
Yeah, so they have to have a license stipulating how much they're putting out. But their original license for their deluge stipulates that they have to use potable water as their input, not processed water.
Okay. So you must be a fine line there. I suppose it's stipulated in black and white writing, isn't it?
It's black and white writing that the water in the tanks that they're sending, at least in the original license they had, has to be potable. That meaning you can drink it. It's tap water essentially.
Lots of water around. They've had water out here as well, so it's designed to run off down here. There's a bit of, not so much evidence that side, but there's a bit of evidence here of the water coming out. So lots and lots and lots of water. So they've had the top deck firing too a few times now since they've had their little energetic event. So that's obviously, well, for now it's obviously working nicely. The top plate again. They don't seem to have had any more anomalies over there, so that's all a good thing. I mean, maybe they've had enough water deluge testing by now, and they actually are ready to. Maybe they are ready for launching now already. Maybe they've crossed that bridge now, Ryan. After all this time of doing all those water deluge testing.
Who knows?
The tricky thing about these deluge tests is that they're not really testing flight conditions, which, we saw a lot of testing before the first booster static fire, and things seemed to be fine. And then, of course, the booster static fires, and then we hear of issues that pop up, and that's just because they're not dealing with the booster's plume essentially restricting the flow, which has a chain reaction up the system. So they're not really testing in a flight-like condition because they kind of can't. The top deck is actually the primary system they can't actually test in a flight condition until flight. Well, that's not entirely true, but technically yes. So yeah, they probably have a lot of timing that they're trying to dial in with that setup, but it is a little nerve-wracking that they can't really test that top plate totally in the right conditions.
The conditions they should be similar to the ridge is what they're modeling. So if they can control their acoustic coupling with the deck interactions with the compositor flames, then. But since they've only had one successful static fire, the sample size of one really doesn't tell you a whole lot.
Yeah, extrapolating the data is pretty much the only thing they can do, and hope that it works. So
we'll find out maybe in a few days.
Yes. Yeah, tight schedule, that's for sure.
And I mean, they're changing their gas parameters that they're sending into the tanks.
They're still sort of basically still fine-tuning the whole system.
Yeah.
Yes, not a bad system.
I mean, once you get your first round of data off of what sort of coupling you're having, how much energy is coming back, you can kind of. But the easiest way for it's combustion stability. It's the same issues that you'd have between the main injector plates in a Raptor and the pre-burners for their gas generators, for the turbo pumps. And one of the easier methods is that you just turn up your mass flow so that the instability, the vibrations and acoustic energies that's being transmitted through, if you have enough flow, you can sort of swamp those out. So
yeah, they're probably just getting it good enough for the first flight because that will give them a lot of data. I mean, once they lift off, conditions are going to change. They haven't really tested into those before, so they have to get it good enough so that they can make it through that, and then they'll have a good data set to then adjust from further. So they'll definitely be fine-tuning the system for a number of flights, but they really have to make it work for the first one and then adjust from there.
Yeah.
It's all about that first launch. Make sure they get it right. Or at least make it safe so it doesn't destroy the place. Okay, over here's... Oh, that's right. The water built up in here, I think almost enough to be in danger of backflowing through that pipe before they had all this finished over in this corner here. I know I've got a picture of that corner.
And somebody I thought was asking about that white line right from the E in the wetland. There's a rope demarking where the highway easement, yeah, right there, and the protected land begins, yeah. I believe
I
that's
saw
all.
it. There's one on the other side too. There's one over there too.
Yeah, I think it's a
somewhere.
Highway 4 easement.
I can't see in that photo, but there's one over there too. Yeah.
You can see it up by where the trucks are.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a demarc where the highway easement ends and the Fish and Wildlife or the Texas Fish and Wildlife, where the park begins essentially.
Yep. So yeah, they've had this boarded up, I guess, till they had. I think you were saying till they have this check valves installed, so they don't get water running back through the system. Because yeah, when they finish their deluge, there's quite a lot of water here where it's supposed to drain out of the where this is supposed to drain. So a lot of water gets in here, and they won't kind of launch. A lot of this water won't. It'll get evaporated, won't it?
They'll just be absorbed.
Okay, they've poured this slab and some kind of. It almost looks like a basement staircase, but some kind of more of a foundation.
It's probably going to end up, if what the map said, it's probably going to be a pump house like they have behind Mega Bay 1 with the big white water tanks.
Okay,
the equivalent of that for the launch site.
Oh, that's what they're calling water storage. That sort of water storage.
Yeah, because this is also where the water main terminates.
This sort of water storage.
Yeah.
Cool. The water main, yeah, isn't it? That's in a thing, isn't it? In a thing under here somewhere, under there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And already hooked up. Well, it's hooked up, but it's not flowing yet. But it's hooked up here to this thing here as well. But obviously not hooked up to the mains yet in Brownsville because they're still tankering the water in.
Yeah, and if you look under the front of the 6 small tanks, one of the kids with a pump that was interfaced with that line has been removed.
Down here?
No, straight right where your hand is. Yeah, there was a skid there that had 2 pumps on it. That's gone. It's now sitting at the airport lot.
Ah.
But yeah, that line is. So the pumps they used to have for it here have been DC'd.
So it goes nowhere now?
It goes to that pipe that you can see under the tanks. That one.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, but they used to have a pump skid there.
Yeah.
That they've removed.
Very good. And they have added a line in here. I don't think it's, I don't know if it's overly important to sort of say, but they've added they're using one of the spare lines from this end and also from this end here. They've hooked it in somewhere. You're saying one of these lines. That's not the best photo.
I haven't traced it. That's where I was speculating it would have been after BJ pointed out, but I haven't traced it too.
Yeah. Possibly one of those lines. Still not a good photo. But to get the idea. So this old LOX vent's been removed since they put these new vents in. What have I missed over here? There's some new doors here. We're not sure where they're going to go or when. New blast doors. One of the bottoms of the gas generators is sitting here. Not sure we're not sure if they actually removed the bottom of that gas generator or not. Maybe just the top. Not really sure about that, to be honest, but there's some of the spare parts here.
They probably moved it out here just, in the fears that maybe the the flange on the top of it that bolts the top part on might have, eaten away at the threads on the one that they had. So as a worst case, they, could swap that in if needed, but it doesn't seem like they actually needed it since it's still over there on the pallet.
Yeah. Blast doors, I didn't notice them. Some event dudes picked it up a bit later on in the show. Yeah, there's some blast doors.
They've been there for weeks.
Weeks of that, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I miss things.
No way.
So it's... I blame my glasses.
You have to wear them.
Oh, is that what I'm doing wrong?
Yeah, I do the same thing. So,
but I don't like them. Anywho, moving along. Let's go. This photo might be better. So we're drilling, pile drilling in this area. This one might be even better. And so at least, so there's those 3 skids there, and then the 4th one at Sanchez, possibly for the next 4 tanks that are at the Port Connector Road to fit into here. Now I'm gonna you were saying before, maybe they might even hook these tanks up.
mm-hmm. I mean, they have the top outlet for it with the main methane manifold on the main supply line.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So every indication is that those are going to get hooked up.
Yeah. And a nice pour here, they could do this manifold again, and instead of 4, could they just bring 1 up into this?
Depends.
There's a better down shot, one of these. Sorry, go ahead.
But if those damp marks on the soil are any indication, they're not going to be in line with these tanks. They're going to be in line with the existing 12. Yeah.
That footing this through here lines up, and this one here lines up. So yeah, that'd be correct. That's right. I forgot about that. And which leaves, once they remove this pipe, that leaves plenty of room for these skids to sit in this area through here as well.
Yeah.
Once they remove those lines, and then, which means they'll end up with the pipe work on top, like this system, perhaps.
Right, but step back slightly.
Yeah, rather than jumping straight in like this one here, they'll have a set of those they'll have a set of pipes sitting over top of this. Down in here, so plenty of room in there to continue that line of tanks through here. But yeah, methane. Lots and lots of methane.
Well, some of it will be LN2 and other things. Some will be methane, some will be LN2, some might be LOX. I think it's going to be a combination of things to fill what's left in. And then all the methane will get eventually.
So maybe some methane on this side, maybe some nitrogen or whatever over this side.
Yep.
Cool. Gotcha. Very good. Yes, so yeah, they've been drilling those piles for it. Maybe so underneath, maybe some more piles for sort of these sort of infrastructure underneath.
That's where they're cleaning it. After they drill it, they then flush the center of the auger before they start and queue up the next cage. So that's just where they're clearing it at, prepping, and then they'll rotate the drill over here and start drilling. But
gotcha.
Yeah, that's just where they're cleaning it out between bores.
Very good. Nice stage, next cage and everything, yep. Okay, so that's the tank farm pretty well. They're working on these pipes, I guess is something we should probably look at. They're perhaps putting valves or something in. They've been working on these.
The cannons.
Yes.
The cannons.
Reinforcing them some more. It's a crazy idea is that they're using that pipe essentially as their boil pond.
Yeah, so if it's for the viewers at home, that instead of having the LOX pond like they had on pad 1, they're using this instead of a LOX pond.
Yeah. Or what? No, this is what they were waterfalling off of.
The OLM.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, the water pool. Okay. So is there a Lox Pond? What are they doing with that?
That all gets rerouted through here.
Okay.
But that was the engine part of the engine chill collection. I thought was going to the Lox Pond.
Oh, and that's all totally different now with the manifolds on the booster, isn't it?
Yeah, they're collecting that and sending it back this way.
Yeah.
Just to dump.
Yeah. So perhaps maybe because you were saying this one's susceptible to actual liquid coming out of this one.
Sounds of photos last week. You can't tell because of the scaffolding. It looks like they had some control valves at the base of this one.
Yep. Okay, so that should wrap up the tank farm. Let's go over to pad scrap. Scrappy scrap, scrap, scrap. Okay, so starting with this crane's location, it's sort of in a very strategic place here. It's not only in a good place for launch, it's also in a good place to lay it down into that gap up through there for the launch in particular, but also it's in a really good location to pick this cage up and put it in there when it's ready and do the roll it forward and do the SQD arm to get rid of it as well at the same time.
The LR11K at 39A is in the exact same position that they're using for it when it was assisting with assembling that pad as well. So,
yep.
And the 11K is in the process of laying down or almost laid down at this point now. So.
And is it laying down there where we thought, straight through there?
Exactly where the counterweight tray was laid up.
Oh, of course. Yep, there. Yep, yep. That's right. Yep. So there's S-beam T is actually still here, putting counterweights on that. Yep, straight through there. Yep. Forgot about that tray. Yep. Okay, actually in the trench here, so we're looking at I might get a different photo. We're looking at the GSC structure foundation here. Just give me a sec. This photo I think was a good one. Yeah. So it looks like they're at the height perhaps for the blinding layer for the bottom of the basement. So the service structure is obviously up at this level up here, but there's that basement. We noticed on pad 2 as well, where the cryogenic pipes come in first underneath, and then they go up into the support structure. So it's about the right height for a blinding layer through here. They can then expose the rebar in these piles, put some rebar down and some more concrete, which is about a few feet thick or whatever for that concrete. Some of the original pad 1 piles showing through here.
That are being reused?
Being reused, yep. And we can see more of the piles up in here for the GSC structure, and so that'd be the outside wall, and this bit of conduit, as we saw also on pad 2. So that'll just stay here buried until they finish all this structure in here. More than likely, even after the trench, everything's probably going to be finished before they dig that up again. Isn't needed for a little while. They're digging a bit in the main trench. You can see any of the piles we see here at this stage are still older piles, because the newer piles should be still buried.
There's
a fair way down.
as well, but they fill that's one of the old ones, but they fill the piles with concrete all the way to the top of the surface. The cages aren't. So unless you clearly can see the rebar in it, you can't determine whether or not it was the old or the new if it's in the around 2-foot diameter, the smaller diameters.
Gotcha. See, so this double wall system, instead of putting the great big tiebacks, using this double wall system, and you're saying that would help to protect this tower, yeah?
Yeah, they're wanting to minimize the amount of dewaterings that's happening.
The dewatering could disturb this one's foundations, yeah?
Yeah, they're trying to minimize the surface and subsurface, which seems kind of counterintuitive with how much more surface digging they're doing, but yeah, like right there in the lower base in the trench, you can see right underneath the foundation of the right there.
Oh wow, yep.
But I mean the load bearing portion of the foundation for the tower is well below where the trenches are digging, so they're trying to prevent having to do deep water, deep dewatering. Because at pad 2s they had those 60 or 90 foot dewatering wells.
Yeah, all the way along. Yeah, all the way along here. So here we can say the tiebacks. So that we've been seeing tiebacks between. I think we saw them in here last week. Can't really see them on this side anymore. They're quite small. But this one over here, there's a really big sucker over here. It's actually using a big steel beam as a tieback. You can see it welded in here, taking a bit of load over a couple of the piles, sheet piles, and tying that back wall to this wall. And it looks like we're going to have a step in. We're going to have a step in here. You're saying so. It'll step down here, won't it?
Yeah. But they'll backfill it all, and it's just how they're doing their shoring.
And eventually water deluge comes through here.
Yep.
And over here they'll be putting another expansion loop out here, ready for the commodities to come back through here as well. So it's all sort of coming along as we observed on pad 2. It's sort of much the same. It's getting a little bit of differences here and there, but maybe we might see a bit of iteration here and there, but mostly it's going to be sort of the same sort of process. I guess the only thing they're really dealing with here is an old tower, so moving forward with newer launch sites, it'll be more the same for each new launch tower / trench going forward. But
still redeem yourself. Tip the tower over. You can still redeem yourself. Tip it over.
Do the right thing.
Do the right thing. You know you want to do it. You know you want to do it. Do it. Do it.
Yeah, that's funny.
Tip it over.
Bring 19 back on top of this tower.
Yes. Genius.
Yes.
Let's do it. Or 20. Or both. Maybe
Right.
both.
As many as it takes.
Yes, exactly. But one way or the other, knock it over.
Build a couple of raptors up here horizontal.
Yes. Help push it over. You just got to route the lines back up. Shouldn't be that hard. Make it a test stand. Yep.
Yeah, I can see that way.
I am all for this plan. Let's do it. Yes. Get rid of that stupid tower and build a new one.
Please at least get rid of the external staircase. Please do that.
No. That's why it has
If the tower is staying, that is staying as an active character for how jank that tower is. And will always be.
It's hilarious how much different 37's groundwork is progressing comparably.
It's like they learn things, Alex.
So much easier doing greenfield construction than working around past mistakes.
Is that from learning, or is that just a different soil type over there?
Greenfield, they don't have any subsurface disturbances that they're dealing with. So here they had to deal with all the old foundations for the previous pad. Pad 2, they had to deal with all the wick drains and other sort of shenanigans they did.
Previous tenants, huh?
Yeah. And I mean, the two greenfields, Massey's and 37, they did their ground prep completely different, and it's a much faster construction, obviously, because you're not having to deal with existing infrastructure.
Yeah. So the actual GSC support building's got most of its, or all of its main structural frames in place. So lots of little bits and pieces to fill in the gaps. So some talk about whether it's going to start will it start to get even some basic fit out work over here as well? Maybe not.
Well,
Have to be
I mean,
careful of weight.
I bet they can get pretty far. They just need a larger load spreader. The 11K with its counterweight tray. I mean, if they put a lot of stuff in there, it could probably lift a good chunk of it.
And its positioning looks like it's going to be near the crane's max lift capacity configuration, since you don't have to boom over that far and don't have to have the a long boom.
And they could even pick it up here and then rotate and even walk. You put the crane mats in, actually walk it forward, can't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll be able to put a lot. They'll probably get as far as they can get on that thing, depending on time and whenever it's ready to get installed, and then the crane will pick it up. It can, obviously probably no shielding panels, but a lot of interior stuff like, the accumulator panels and all that other stuff.
Yep. So there's flooring as well. There's walls, a couple of wall panels. There's 3 floors. Is there 3 floors of equipment? Maybe not the bottom stuff, obviously. It's going to get mounted on the flooring. But yeah, the other 2 floors, for sure, they could fit out. Very good. And over in this corner, they've got some concreting. Oh, that's the wrong picture. How did that picture get there? Oops. This one I'm looking for. Got some concreting going on over here. Let's get that Aussie accent going on.
What will they be building here for construction?
Staging. What for construction? Oh, flame trench.
Stuffing things.
Yes.
They could take the arm off the tower and move it over there to do their mods.
Yeah.
I still want them to scrap that entire arm and do it from scratch, but it's just me.
What? Reuse the arm? No way.
The forward can't be. The forward is a scrap heap. The shoulder, they could strip it. They could strip the insides, redo it structurally like they did the one with 39A, and then re-kit it out again. They could do that with the shoulder. The forward, no. The forward is entirely scrap because the forward is a completely new design, so that won't get reused at all.
I did identify one new tube to the structure on the arm for pad 2, so I think there's maybe only one new tube in there, maybe 2, not fully certain, but at least the one in the corner, there's a diagonal that's new.
There's one here. There's a vertical one between the hinge points too.
Pretty sure this pad has that.
Oh, okay.
Either way, they can they could strip this one and change it, or just scrap it and start anew. But whatever. Who knows?
I'm hearing you're not liking that idea, Webby.
You already know what I want to happen. So
yeah. I agree, but
I don't want a single ounce of the old pad left over. I want the chopsticks, the arm, and the tower gone.
And it's
all
base.
Brand new from scratch. That's what I want, but that won't happen. So
how's it going? Media@spacex.com.
Yeah.
Investor relations no, wait. That's not the address yet.
Okay, so I was saying before at Sanchez, I brought some of the containers over here from Sanchez. Ready for some construction contractors. Things. There's some things. There's some more things.
Scaffolding and argon.
Okay, so pad scrap. What else at pad scrap have I forgotten? Let me see. That's not
It's
pad scrap
scraps.
again.
It's scrap. That's what it is.
Yeah. I don't know we're seeing any more stuff arrive in this staging areas. Lazy's still sitting there being lazy. I think we saw that roll out. We saw that SPM2 roll out on the cameras. So the crane's laying down. Cool. Well, that means they're going to launch on Tuesday for sure. Don't you think? Maybe not. Be interesting. I'm interested. I'll be interested to see. I wouldn't be surprised if they make it, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they don't make it. I mean, have rushed a launch before and managed to get it done. Now over here, they're filling in this wall, yeah?
Yep.
Not sure if that's the best photo, but it's the one on the right side anyway. Little bits and pieces. This they're pouring concrete. I actually didn't expect that, but it's obviously that's obvious what they need to do is put a concrete roof on this building because it's in a bit of a interesting location. What do you say? There's something very angry aimed at it. Just across the highway.
Possibly.
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
So concrete roof for that. I guess that's why they're bracing this so solidly as well, to protect it from some of that anger. Oh, look, more conduits. Jeez. It's okay. That wasn't a funny illusion the other day when I was looking at show and tell. Didn't look like conduits at all. So we were joking, show and tell, that these kind of aren't all conduits, but they're actually, to strengthen the soil as well. But because there seems to be a lot of them. The pipework's still to be connected through to here for the water. And this week we get a good look at this water chilling system. Which do you want to go over that for us again, Alex?
It's just the cooling They have the water cooling loop for the intercoolers, and here's where they're chilling the water back down.
And ASU makes a lot of heat, and you got to cool it.
Yep.
Somehow. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these are
That's literally what it is.
Fairly standard HVAC water chillers. Pretty much every high-rise, large office complex, data centers use this sort of technology. The difference here is they're using some of the cold nitrogen gas instead of coolant for like direct expansion. So yeah, essentially there's subcoolers for water.
So water in, water out.
Yeah.
And then we also see over here the actual water pumps for the whole reticulation system in here.
Yep. You have the
And
two
maybe
loops.
the two loops. Yep, of course. Yep.
And then the centrifugal filter / yeah.
And control gear, so that's going ahead. And you're saying there still could be fans on top up here?
Yeah. I mean, they have the renders of it. They do have a couple banks of cooling towers on top of this roof.
Yeah. And then a blast wall on top. So we'll go to questions, but I'll try and think of anything we left out at the launch site for a minute. Thanks, Indy.
All right, so Indy had to take off, but I am going to take over. So first, I have donations. So our first one is £10 donation from Martin, and he says, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, how many peppers did Peter Piper pick? There we go.
I thought it was where's the peck of peppers that Peter Piper picked. Anywho, you sound like you practiced that.
I'm just good at these.
Cool.
All right, so then we got the rest are PayPal donations. We got $15 from Keith Rowley. We got $10 from William Dason. We got $10 from Charles Reed. We've got $104 from looks like Bobby Caldwell, and almost $64 from Martin. So yeah, thank you so much, everybody. We really appreciate that. And then I see we have another £2 donation from just Martin. So yeah, Martin's coming in clutch lately.
Let's see. Go on, keep going.
Nope, I was just going to say we're going to get to the questions now.
Well, just before I go, let's see a 10 membership gifting from Stumpy.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I guess I missed that one. I was just going by what Indy sent me.
Can't forget Stumpy in the chat.
All right, I'm not sure exactly where we are with questions, so give me 1 second here.
Daniel Hodgbin was showing he's been a member for 29 months. That's awesome. So I just want to give a birthday shout out to Astro Joe and thank you, Mauricio, and the restoration thereafter for all the hard work and dedication. Yeah, I've got to shout out to Joe. Joe's been one of the a member and a presenter for such a long time with this channel. Just of recent, he's stepped away from commentating a bit because of life, but yeah, he's very much been part of the team for a very long time. So big shout out to Joe and of course Jen as well. They've both been very good personally. As a personal note, they've been very good supporters of myself as well. And there's a donation program from $5 saying thanks all for the birthday love, everyone. Yeah, and you're quite welcome, Joe. Absolutely. You've always got a place here at RGV.
Heck yeah. All right, so I'm going to start reading one from Todd in Cabo, and you let me know if you've heard it. He asks, so is there a manual override on the separate deluge sequences so that water is guaranteed on takeoff, especially the top plate?
Manual override?
I hope not.
Well, they're all like separate systems, I guess, if that's... or are you meaning like to ensure that it goes off regardless?
I think that's what he means.
I hope not. I hope that if there actually is an issue on it, the issue causes an abort on all systems, including the rocket, and it doesn't go anywhere.
Well, that would be great if it hadn't released yet, but if it releases and then there's a fault tripped, I think they would ignore the fault.
Yeah. At that point, yeah, then you would ignore the fault, or there's probably a certain tree in which it's like, okay, it's already lifted off, or I ignore everything, just fire it anyways, no matter what. So
a bit like what is it, V1 on a jet when you're taking off. Once you get over V1, take your hands off the throttle. No matter what happens from now on, we're flying. Full stop.
You don't take your hands off the throttle on that one. But anyways, I'm not going to go into that.
All right, and the next one's from the real Levi. How much longer until the water line gets installed from Brownsville, or where was it coming from?
It's coming from Brownsville.
Eventually it's coming from Brownsville. It's just not quite hooked up yet.
Yeah, it's just taking a while. They're working on it, though. All right, the next one is from Curtis. Asks, with the visible effects that Pad 2 is putting on the wetlands, what is SpaceX thinking by placing the tanks at the exit of the Pad 1 flame trench?
Those will move.
They'll move or be behind a blast wall.
Yeah, one of the two.
Right. All right, and Widford asks, did they have an issue with one of the clamps when removing the booster from the launch mount? Could this be an issue during liftoff?
The question comes up every time they remove the booster from the launch mount. It's always the final clamp that they release. It's just the sequence and the way they release the booster. I don't think they'll have any issues whatsoever when they go to release all 20 at the same time on liftoff. I don't think there's going to be any problems.
And they might do the same thing they did on Pad 1, where 15 minutes before liftoff, they'll release the clamps once there's sufficient prop load to maintain it without needing clampage.
And that's all we have.
Well, that was easy.
Yeah.
Well, so I don't think we've got any other things to cover on launch site, so might start wrapping up. We've done actually 3-hour stream today. That's a bit longer than usual for me, considering I didn't think we'd have 2 hours worth. So once again, it sounds like I'm sounding like a broken record here. So we'll go through our commentators. So we'll start with Ryan Hansen. Thank you very much for your commentary today.
Yeah, no problem. I think this was a fun flyover, potentially the last one before a flight. So hopefully things look the same in about a week from now. And so, yeah, should be an exciting week coming up.
Absolutely. And Ryan Weber, thank you very much for being with us again, of course.
Pleasure as always. For anyone watching, NSF will be on the countdown to launch. That's going to be on in like an hour. So I'll be right back on stream. So I'll see anyone there. But it's a pleasure as always.
Does that mean you're going to be online for like 48 hours?
It's a while. I'll just put it that way.
And Alex, always wonderful to have you on stream. So thank you very much for being on stream again today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steph. Thank you, Ryan and Webby and Matt. It was a fun stream. So yeah, talk to you next time.
And well, thank Indy for being on here earlier. Those you can't hear me right now, but yeah, Indy does a good job. Another one of the OG members of the crew. So it's good on Indy. And I've been Stephanie B, so I'm going to say good day to you now, and I'll let Matt sign off. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Steph. We really appreciate all of the support that you guys have been putting in through PayPal and through the Super Chats and everything. It really helps a lot, and it's going to go a long way towards our flyover on Tuesday, or at least hopefully Tuesday. That's what we have it scheduled for. So looking forward to that one. That'll be a really fun stream. We're going to be doing a live watch-along stream. So look forward to that, everybody. We'll be doing that instead of the expanded show on Tuesday. So, yeah, we look forward to seeing you then. So until that time, most engines cut off. Hot staging confirmed. Love you, bye.